Welcome in, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Thursday? Or is it Friday? No, it's Thursday. It is Thursday, April 23rd, 2026. Hope everyone is having a good one. I sure am. It's a nice, chill day. Good weather again in Southern California. Well, at least in Rancho Cucamonga, where I live, having fantastic weather. It's been pretty windy. Hey, DV8, welcome in. Hope you are well. It's been pretty windy, like last week and stuff. So it's nice to have like sunny, cooler temperature weather without it being super windy. RCCU around. So today's stream gonna be more chill. Yay. Oh damn, I love seeing all those little hearts pop up and the 100%. Thank you, chat, for being so cool. The election last night, the debate last night was crazy. And I really want to know who won the debate. In your opinion, chat, who do you think? Or leave a comment down below the video. Who do you think won the debate from last night? It was pretty good. It was really good, and I'm glad that they finally had it. Let's like I said, it's going to be a more chill day today. We're going to watch a couple of interviews and stuff. But real quick, let's watch whoops, not this. Deviate said, I know what the Republicans are. Their policies suck, to say the least. Yeah. The Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, man, they said some like on track like MAGA points, I think. But it was like kind of covertly. It wasn't like super like Trump saying, "Oh, we're gonna ban Mexico is sending all of these horrible people and we don't want them anymore. With Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, we heard them say that same kind of sentiment, but I think it was Chad Bianco that was like these people are criminals and they need to be in jail and whatever. And I think Steve Hilton, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he had a similar type of take on immigration, which is crazy because he's an immigrant himself. But let's watch recap. Oh, wait, I had it pulled up over here. My bad. Oh, no, I don't have it pulled up over here. Okay. CA Gov Debate. Here we go. CNN. Oh
Eric
no,
Swalwell.
Alex
That one was
Michelson.
pretty
Hell yeah.
public. In California, a televised debate in the governor's race wrapped up just a short time ago on Nexstar stations. 6 candidates appeared on the stage, 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans. It was an opportunity to move the conversation forward after a couple of candidates suspended their bids, including Eric Swalwell. That one was pretty public. One of the top issues facing the state is the rising amount of people experiencing homelessness. Here's how all 6 candidates graded current Governor Gavin Newsom on how he has addressed that problem.
I'm a notoriously tough grader, but I would probably give him a B on homelessness. I don't think this has been an easy problem to solve, but I do give him a lot of credit for calling attention to the problem.
I'll give him a B on Care Court and Prop 1 and many of the important initiatives that he championed where I've been proud to stand with him.
The governor has made efforts. We've seen him come down to Los Angeles, actually go out and try to clean some of the streets. On effort, I would give him an A.
It is an absolute dismal failure, and anyone that says it's not is fooling themselves or trying to fool voters.
I'd love to be in your class, Katie, if you get a B for what Gavin Newsom's done on homelessness. My goodness, of course it's an F. It shames our state, the situation with homelessness.
So I give the governor a B- on this, and I want to start with a simple statement, which is no one gets well on the street.
Joining me now for our political panel is Melanie
That's
Mason,
crazy.
California Bureau.
Deviate said Porter did pretty good. Again, the Dems, I want them to go more left. I agree. I think, my opinion, I think Porter, she was my favorite of last night. Katie Porter did really good, I think, and I'm gonna have to say she should see a boost in the polls, but I don't know if she will. As far as for the Republicans, I don't know, man. I feel like they didn't like outshine each other. They both did kind of the same against each other, Republican versus Republican. But it's clear that having the Trump endorsement didn't do what it should have, right? Having a president endorse you for governor, that should have been a clear path. But man, Chad Bianco is very viable, I think, at least as for the Republican ticket, right? And that's assuming that the Republicans even make it to make it after the jungle primary. So yeah, Hilton has vibes, but again, policy over vibes. He's just, yeah, vibes 100%. He didn't even really say what he was going to do policy wise. Other than like, I feel like Hilton and Bianco, they just kept blaming Democrats for everything, which is crazy. Crazy because what are they going to do? In this state, you should be trying to get Democratic, voters, but I don't know. I don't know how that really works in that much detail, but we will learn together.
Bureau Chief for Politico, and from Sacramento, Mike Madrid, co-founder of the Lincoln Project, founder of Latino Working Class Project as well. Good to see both of you. Mike, we will talk with you in a moment. Let's start with you, Melanie. You help to oversee the California Politico Playbook, which is must-read every day. You write great headlines. You always have fun with that. What's the headline for this debate? Is there one?
It's tough to kind of come up with one, which is not great because that is our job, is to figure out what the headline is. But in some ways, I almost feel like that was by design, right? I mean, we did not see any of the candidates really have a standout moment where they took on another candidate on the stage. I mean, yes, there was swipes back and forth, but you know, the thing that really does cause a headline is when you see some fireworks. And it felt like the candidates wanted to maybe get their message out, maybe introduce themselves to the voters, but they didn't want to have that hard contrast with their opponents that I think would stick in the minds of voters and journalists like us.
And this was really the first debate with all these folks on stage. There are going to be more of them, so maybe they were holding some of that, but it seemed like the both format of the debate and the choices of the candidates on the debate was to not do that, to not necessarily be aggressive in going after different people. Interesting that this grade question that our colleague Ashley Zavala has asked people on her show that they picked up tonight on grading Governor Newsom getting a lot of attention. He still looms large in this whole thing, right? And he hasn't endorsed anybody.
He has not endorsed anybody. And I think that tiptoeing around the question that we saw from the Democrats, I think reflects the fact that none of them want to get on Gavin Newsom's bad side. I think that was actually a much easier question for the Republicans on stage, right? They could just tee off.
Simple. F, of course.
Exactly. And to voters who, I mean, even I think Democratic voters are probably not particularly happy with the state of the homelessness in the state, for example, or the high housing prices. And so when you hear answers like A for effort or giving them a B, I mean, it feels a little dissonant to, I think, what is the lived experience of those in the state. But Democrats don't want to do anything that makes Gavin Newsom mad, so they have to have.
Yeah. Okay. So that was crazy, and that's a very good point that she's bringing up. That's crazy that her from the Lincoln Project, so that she's a never Trump Republican. Then you know what I mean. She's saying that none of the candidates wanted to, like not even say anything bad about Gavin Newsom, which is crazy because they should feel comfortable, you know, criticizing him, but it's weird. They are clearly all vying for his endorsement, right? But let's be honest, is Gavin Newsom as popular with Californians as we think he is or as he should be, right? If he's like the guy running for president, he's the Democrats guy running for president. He should be the party leader, right? But he's not. There's no party leader right now. It's just, you know, free for all at the moment. But so as the party leader, or if he's in that role, you know, everyone should be wanting his endorsement. But just like the Republicans, we're seeing that having the Trump endorsement isn't meaning much for for Steve Hilton. So who knows how much the Gavin Newsom endorsement would get people to actually vote for them, or maybe that just getting the Gavin Newsom endorsement is about cutting other candidates out of the field, right? Because they would clearly respect his endorsement no matter what because they all want it. But yeah, that is a very good point to bring up.
Have these kind of swishy answers.
Yeah, I mean, why is that? Why are they afraid to take him on? I mean, one candidate, Matt Mahan, the mayor of San Jose, has gone after him repeatedly before he ever gotten into the race, but the others really haven't.
And Matt Mahan has kind of walked that back a little bit since he's been running for governor, and I think that's in part because Gavin Newsom remains pretty popular, particularly with Democratic voters in this state. So
and I guess, sorry, one more point I want to make real quick was the question was about homelessness, right? The whole thing was Gavin Newsom says he's doing a good job on homelessness, but Californians are saying that we're still Californians are saying that homelessness is either about the same or worse now. So that just kind of shows you that something's not lining up. If it's getting worse, it's getting worse. Why are you saying it's getting better? But I don't know. Deviate said Porter, I think, unfortunately, will fall into that camp where people didn't vote for her because of misogyny. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I agree with you, Deviate, because like I think I said it on stream, or I might have said it to some of my family members or whatever. But I struggle with like Katie Porter being a loud woman, right? Even though I myself am a loud woman who says mean things that people do not want to hear all the time. Like on the scale of women, you know, women being that woman, right? I'm way worse than Katie Porter. I bet 100%. I just don't have the experience of yelling at all these Congress people in whatever the CEOs and stuff that she was fighting with, or yelling at employees. I mean, bro, I've managed people. I've had to like lay down the law sometimes, and it's hard to do. You know, you don't know how to do it, especially everyone is different. So like, or I should say, like, I've had to tell people that I maybe not managed, but were in charge of, like, had to be harsh with them. And of course, they're an upset employee, you know? They don't, you know, it sucks. It sucks being in that situation, and it sucks how being a woman in our society basically means that you have this extra standard that you have to abide by to be likable, and it really really sucks. So it's just like, you know, they should call it the Hillary Clinton effect or something. I don't know, you know, but it's just basically women having to work twice as hard or work harder because they are a woman, and by having that gender they have to make up for it in other ways, and it sucks. It really sucks. But I'm standing behind Katie Porter. Not like 100%, you know, I'm just saying she's my pick as the best candidate in the race, right? You know, we're trying to do nonpartisan coverage, but it's hard not to, of course. We're going to have our preferences and our, you know, biases, right? So, yeah, the misogyny thing, I think it's totally real. Again, some things she needs to go a little bit more on the left. Yeah. I was kind of disappointed with like how like, they didn't talk about healthcare per se, did they? I don't remember any questions like being about universal healthcare or whatever. It was just like straight up, like, how are you gonna handle homelessness? Are you gonna fight with Donald Trump if he's president, or are you gonna fight with presidents? How are you gonna work with Donald Trump the remainder years that he's in office? And then like what was the other big point? Oh, the like homeowners insurance. That was crazy because the question was kind of framed like, what are you gonna do to bring back businesses? I think to bring back insurance companies, private insurance companies. Um, yeah. Deviate said, are you gonna fight the Melania robot? Yeah. Oh yeah, that was another question they asked was about um not did they ask about AI or did they ask about data centers? I don't really remember, but whatever. It was good. Um, and like I said, Katie Porter made lots of moves. I think the person who performed the worst was Matt Mahan or Matt Mayhem, whatever the however he chooses to pronounce his last name.
As these Democrats are trying to consolidate the Democratic voters, you know, Gavin Newsom is still, I think, has more seen more positively than negatively, and so I think making an enemy, it probably puts them on the wrong side with a lot of voters.
So in a debate, a lot of the questions are who won, who lost. I think it's very strange that people can bet on politics these days. I personally don't really
Was
find
Polly
this very
Market
comforting,
happening
and
for real?
I don't put a lot of credibility into this. But there are people that put money on the line that believe a candidate's going to win, and it changes. So we want to put up on the screen from Kalshi. These are the post-debate odds And these are people who are literally moving their money around based off of what happened. So it showed that Tom Steyer basically stayed the same as the front runner. But look at this. Javier Becerra, who was really surging, down 7% after the debate. Matt Mahan up 7% after the debate. Steve Hilton, Katie Porter stay unchanged. Chad Bianco down just 1%. But that story, because a week ago, or a couple weeks ago, Javier Becerra and Matt Mahan weren't even on the stage. Because Swalwell dropped out, they put out a new poll. Becerra, Mahan are on the stage, and they seem to be getting the most attention.
Particularly, I think that the Javier Becerra story has been so fascinating, right? Because he really did zoom up the polls as soon as we saw Eric Swalwell drop out. I think because, people look at him and they say he has quite a long resume. He has a lot of experience. Maybe let's give this guy a new look. And I do think, look, I agree with you. I don't think we should put too much stock in these Kalshi numbers. But I think in some ways it is an indicator perhaps of how people are viewing the momentum in this race. And for a while, the Kalshi ads were moving towards Becerra. It seems like maybe they slid a little bit back. And look, I know the Becerra team loved the Kalshi odds when it was showing that he was zooming up. And if you're going to live by those odds, you're going to die by them. And so in this case, if they're saying after the debate, maybe people are slightly less enthused, then that might tell you how his debate performance went.
And Becerra was the only candidate not to go to the spin room to talk more about it. And so that may be an indication of the way they felt about it. Or sometimes if people are really confident, they feel like we left it all on the floor. Let's bring in Mike Madrid to our conversation right now. Mike, you have worked on campaigns in this state for such a long time. You're not working on one of these campaigns right now, which I'm sure is interesting for you. So you can be a more objective viewer of this. Who do you think was sort of the winner on the Democratic side?
Well, thanks for making me feel so old there, Alex. Look, I think that Melanie really nailed it. I mean, this was kind of a much ado about nothing, and I think that was by design. I think these candidates are a little bit unsure of their coalitions, as small as they are, and I think you're seeing some of that fluidity still exists in the race. I think if there were two candidates that probably did come out at the top, they would be Becerra and Mahan, only because the downward trajectory didn't emanate. There wasn't any big bad moment that was going to knock them off their heels. So I'm not too sure this race will probably move numbers too significantly, but there's still a tremendous amount of fluidity in this race. And I think we've got a long, long way to go with a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and a lot more changes and curves ahead before we get to June 2.
You could argue that the biggest sort of opportunity and challenge was for Matt Mahan, who was not well known to a lot of people before this, Mike, and is trying to get his name out there, is on the stage, has a lot of money behind him.
Yeah,
but it
has
seems
a
like
lot
he's
of
kind
money
in a
for
make or break
sure.
moment, right?
I think this was a make or break moment. He's definitely going to have a very interesting set of days in the coming week or so. The challenge for Mahan, and I know Matt, I think he's got a fantastic future. I just worry about the message that they're trying to drive. There's no lane for a Democratic Party to hear the criticism that they're hearing in this tremendously anti-Trump moment. It's kind of like telling people that they've got a crack in the foundation of their house when the house is literally on fire. Everybody wants to throw water on that fire, or in the case of Gavin Newsom, fight the fire with fire. But the foundation, those main problems, challenging and criticizing the problem, there's not a lot of appetite for that right now. And that probably explains why he's pivoted as much as he has. The question is there a lane that's big enough to break through? I think you're seeing Steyer with he's kind of topping out $120 million. He's paid about $10 million per percentage point.
Yeah.
Katie Porter isn't moving in her range. So, yeah, I think it's a make or break in the next week or so for Mahan. If he doesn't get into contention, he's probably going to have to look at another cycle to run for governor.
And meanwhile, on the Republican side, Mike, Steve Hilton recently got the endorsement of President Trump. That gives him obviously a lot of money there. But a good night, it seemed like, for Chad Bianco with the Republican base. If you are a Republican watching this, he was speaking your language.
He really was. He's much more of a populist candidate, sort of that MAGA brand candidate. Hilton's got a lot of advantages. He does have that name recognition as a Fox News personality. He does run in that MAGA inner sanctum of Donald Trump. He got Donald Trump's endorsement. He also is a little bit peculiar in that he really is, regardless of kind of the shticky substance and persona that he presents, this is a substantive guy who understands policy. He's like one of the last remaining members of the substance wing, the policy wing of the old Republican Party. He understands these problems. You don't have to agree with them, but he can debate them and discuss them. I think what Bianco showed was that he couldn't answer a basic question about the gas tax. He didn't know how much it was or where he would find the revenues to replace it when he said he'd eliminate it, other than waste, fraud, and abuse, which is kind of this old Republican saw for saying, I have no idea. I just don't study. I don't look at this stuff. And I probably don't even know what the gas tax generates.
Thank you, Mike. And Melanie, last word to you. Sort of where do we go from here?
Well, look, I do think that in the wake of the Swalwell scandal, and now we are starting to see these debates, televised debates, kind of one after and then the other in the next couple of weeks. I do think
Oh,
that this is the
that's
moment where
great.
people
That's
are
great.
tuning in. And so I'm going to be really interested to see what happens in the polls over the next, 10 days, 14 days. I think as voters decide, okay, the ballots are coming to our house now, I actually maybe have to make a decision. I think we're going to get a real indication of perhaps what the appetite is from the voters. Do they want somebody who projects kind of like calm steadiness like Javier Becerra? Do they want somebody who can, promise some of these flashier programs like Tom Steyer? I think we're waiting to see where the voters land.
And of course, the ballots are supposed to arrive in the mail by May 4th, and then on May 5th, CNN has a debate, which we
that's
are
crazy.
looking forward to. Caitlin Collins and I will be co-moderating that right here. Mike, thank you. Melanie, thank you. A lot more to talk about in the weeks ahead as we prepare for that big debate here on CNN.
Heck yeah. All right. Thank you, Alex. Heck yeah. I'll always love his reporting. All right. So that's crazy that that's crazy that the consensus is that the poly market. They had it on screen.
Based off of what happened. So
that's crazy that Mahan got so much boost when we were just saying, or at least I was just saying that homie did not do anything. I feel like he had such a boring set of. He just didn't stand out to me as much as Katie Porter, which I'm shocked that she didn't move at all. So that's kind of crazy. But Chad Bianco won going down, and that's I guess the most shocking news of this post debate odds from Kalshi is that Javier Becerra dropped 7 points. It's almost like all of the or all of the boost that he got from Swalwell dropping out was just in his little basket because people were like, okay, yeah, he seems like a good choice after that. But I guess some people after saw uh some people of that Swalwell bucket after seeing the debate were like, oh no, we have to go with Mahan, like that's our guy, and dropped Becerra. But I don't know. I really don't know like what stuck out for those people, but we'll see. I'm glad that Becerra's still doing pretty high. Um, Sad that Katie Porter's this her odds are this low. But what can we do? I'm glad to see that Hilton or Bianco did not get, boost in the polls, and that's going to be great because what if we end up with 2 Democrats going off into the, if what if 2 Democrats win the primary? That will be amazing. So I don't know. It doesn't even seem like if Bianco drops out or if Hilton drops out, them picking up each other's support is not going to make a difference. So it very well could be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what those odds are. You'll have to let me know, chat. Who do you think would be the top 2 to go to the official election? Do you think it could be like right now? It's Tom Steyer and Javier Becerra that are going to the election. Do you think Tom Steyer could beat Becerra if those are the only 2 going, or vice versa? That's crazy. It looks like not even a Republican is gonna is gonna make it to the actual election. They didn't the debate did nothing for them. The only people that the debate helped out were Democrats, and that's crazy. But I think it is a clear point, or at least clear vision. I mean, not clear vision. I think it's pretty clear that well, wait, hold on. Deviate said Francesca Florentini made a video on how the governor thing about a day ago. We could watch that. I love Francesca Florentini. Well, let me pull it up. There we go. Oh no, Reese Witherspoon, weird AI push. Of course, she's doing that again. Of course, Reese Witherspoon is doing AI. Sandra Bullock too is also doing AI. That's, of course, it's just like NFTs all over again. Okay, here we go. I'm assuming it's this Steyer versus Becerra.
Okay, let me make this
Oh, hold on, hold on. Oh, is it lagging?
video really quick about the California governor's race. Look, obviously things are getting very, very heated, and there's not a lot of time before June. And I want to talk about two candidates in particular, specifically Javier Becerra and Tom Steyer, and just compare and contrast. Now,
Okay.
I want to
The top
mention
two.
that politically, I am much more aligned with someone like. Video really quick about the California governor's race.
brother.
Look, obviously things are getting very, very heated, and there's not a lot of time before June. And I want to talk about two candidates in particular, specifically
my
Javier Becerra
browser's
and
bugging
Tom
out.
Steyer, and just compare and contrast. Now, I want to mention that politically, I am much more.
Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Hold on, hold on. We are having technical issues. Maybe I have too many tabs open. That's why.
Okay, let me make this video really quick about the California governor.
Okay. Let's do the old timey thing where we pause it and let it buffer a little bit. Oh no. Okay.
We have Victoria.
Maybe.
Well, the June primary.
Hold on.
How I wondered.
Sorry, I got all these. Okay, I guess we don't need it open all the way.
One word to describe the following.
Nope. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let's see if reducing the number of tabs helps.
Okay, let me make this video really quick about the California governor's race. Look, obviously things are getting very, very heated, and there's not a lot of time before June. And I want to talk about two candidates in particular, specifically Javier Becerra and Tom Steyer, and just compare and contrast. Now, I want to mention that politically, I am much more aligned with someone like.
Bro, it froze in the same place. All right, maybe it's just not meant to be. It's just not meant to be to watch that video. So that's okay. That's okay. Let's just finish this video. Oh no, we already finished that video from Alex. But we could watch this one, which was about last night's debate, I think.
Primary election is now just 6 weeks away, and this little guy is probably already popping up in your mailbox.
Yep,
This is
I literally
the
got
voter
it today.
information guide. And look, we had a viewer reach out to our team asking why a candidate, Tom Steyer, does not have a candidate statement. So our team was wondering the same question. So I want to bring in ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen, because this is something we really wanted to look into. And our team actually learned a lot along the way that we didn't know. So hopefully you find this story just as interesting as we did. Jeannie, what can you tell us?
Well,
about
Alex, I think you'll notice that there are multiple gubernatorial candidates that don't have a candidate statement there in that voter guide. And what we discovered is that it's actually optional to have a statement. So if you choose to have one, well, you got to read the fine print.
As the June primary
Wow, that was a
election
long
approaches, state and county officials are prepping the necessary materials to send to voters.
Voters in Sacramento County should be receiving, unless they elect to receive one of them online, two separate voter information guides in the mail. One comes from us with all the local election information, and another comes from the state with statewide information.
Now, this here is the official voter information guide for statewide offices for the upcoming primary election. You can see that all the candidates are listed in here, but not all of them have their candidate information statements. And the Secretary of State's office says there is a reason for that.
There are voluntary campaign spending limits for certain offices that candidates cannot exceed if they want to have a statement in the guide. Gubernatorial candidates must not spend more than $11,767 for the primary and stay under $19,611 for the general election. Those who accept these terms are allowed to purchase a candidate summary for the voter guide. Legislative analyst Chris McCaley says the U.S. Supreme Court ruled spending limits are a violation of the First Amendment's freedom of speech.
So all they can do is make those spending limits voluntary. And so one incentive to accept it is inclusion of that statement in the ballot guide that goes to every registered voter.
It's also not cheap to have a candidate statement. According to the Secretary of State candidate statement guidelines, statements for the primary election is $25 per word for up to 250 words. Even though all candidates running for governor do appear listed in the guide, McCaley says it's up to the voter to do the extra research.
Voters will want to look at the individual candidates' websites, and they have not only thorough information about the candidate's background, but most of them have policy statements and even specific positions on different public policy issues facing California's voters.
And the state is in the process of mailing out voter guides. In Sacramento County, officials will start mailing out the guides starting this Friday, Alex.
All right, Jeannie, thank you so much. And we do want to give you some key election dates to keep in mind. You might actually want to take a photo of this. On May 4th, vote by mail ballots
take a photo of your
sent
TV
to
screen.
registered voters. Early voting sites will also open on this date. May 18th is the last day to register to vote for the primary election. Between May 19th and June 2nd, voters can conditionally register and vote a provisional ballot. Election day is Tuesday, June 2nd. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Crazy. That was great. Thank you for that information, ABC 10.
The governor's race has seen some big names weigh in so far, including State Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas, as well as President Trump. The big name that has yet to make an endorsement, however, Gavin Newsom.
I had an opportunity to work with every single person that is running for that office, and I've had the privilege of working and partnering with them in many different capacities over many, many years, and I respect their willingness to put themselves out.
While the governor stays on the sidelines, the race to replace him is certainly heating up, culminating in last night's debate. Eric Swalwell's sudden exit amid sexual misconduct allegations, which he denies, has shaken up the contest and given Javier Becerra a noticeable boost in recent polling. Still, the race is very much wide open. Democrats now worry they could be boxed out of the November ballot under California's top two primary system, where only two...
These numbers that they have up on the screen from ABC 10, it has... Okay, so this is polling from April 15th through 17th. It has Steve Hilton at 16, Chad at 14, and then Becerra, Tom Steyer at 13 each. That's crazy. Polling is all over the place, isn't it?
Highest vote getters will advance, and all of this is happening just weeks before ballots start landing in voters' mailboxes. Sacramento State political science professor Wesley Hussey shared his perspective on the race.
I think part of it is Democrats are concerned about the chaos of this primary. There was a lengthy concern for a while.
Oh, this guy's name is Professor Hussey. That's crazy. Sacramento State, that's crazy. Thank you, Wesley Hussey. Let's hear what he has to say.
Maybe even two Republicans would advance to the general election. I always thought that was a rare chance, but it was enough of one that I know Democrats were really concerned. But then the other question is, who do we back, and who's an establishment mainline Democrat? And Swalwell really has no California government experience. But I think that the Democrats kind of got behind him and maybe reluctantly endorsed him and saw him as a mainstream endorsement, kind of Democrat they could get behind. With his removal from the race, I think a lot of Democrats looked again at someone like Becerra, who had been, an assembly member briefly, a longtime member of Congress, the state attorney general, as well as federal cabinet secretary. So they thought, this is a person who's been around for a while, will do the good job, and also knows California politics really well.
And meantime, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, he obviously holds a lot of sway with Democrats here in the state, but he has remained on the sidelines. Why do you think that is?
This is a really tough spot for Governor Newsom because he's clearly running for president. in 2 years. And I think he doesn't want to upset any part of his California base as he's thinking about running for the Democrat
That's so
nomination.
true.
So
So
I think, yeah,
true.
usually the governor would have a bigger say here. And I think he's intentionally stayed out of this race for kind of political expediency purposes. But yeah, it's not. It's very unusual for the governor not to have a say or a voice in this process.
Ballots start going out here in the next few weeks. Voters are really only starting to tune in now. What should we expect moving forward? Are Democrats really at risk of being boxed out of this general election?
Well, so I think this is the time when that money
Okay.
gets spent. This is the time when
Yes.
you see the TV commercials, the commercials on streaming services. That's a way that historically California politicians have appealed to voters, is through television and through the media. And so this is, as you said, the kind of the good few weeks before ballots come out for candidates to make their strong appeal. So I think that, I think we're going to see a lot more element of candidates getting into the, getting into the mix now. And then also, this is the time when voters start paying attention. So, I think they got a little bit of a jump up because Swalwell's collapse and the horrible scandal. So now they're like, oh, well, who's still in this race? Oh,
Yeah.
what do they stand for? So
Yeah.
it's kind of a great opportunity now for voters and candidates to kind of intermix themselves. I think to the issue of the Republicans, Democrats got a huge gift from President Donald Trump by him endorsing one of the two Republican candidates, which I think will coalesce the vote behind Steve Hilton in a way that almost guarantees him a spot in the general election, but then makes it almost impossible for the other Republican to win that second spot. So
Yeah.
Democrats should be thankful for President Trump for interfering in the process and basically letting one of the Democrats advance to the general election and almost certainly then at that point winning in November.
It certainly is quite the interesting race. So Wesley Hussey, professor of political science at Cal State University, thank you so much for your time and your insights, sir. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. I hope. I mean, I want one of the Republicans to drop out bad, but we'll see. It seems to be working in Democrats' favor. Happy birthday, DV8, preemptively. Sunday. That's cool. All right. So let's continue. Let's get into the main things that I wanted to cover for today's show. I want to watch or learn some more about Teamsters, like I guess general president, I think is what it's called, the like national president. So of course, Deviate. I hope you have a good birthday. Um, it's crazy times, but we got to celebrate any way we can. Okay, so you know what? I don't want to watch the. Let's start. You know what? Yeah, let's start by watching the Republican convention speech he did, or at least PBS NewsHour. See, PBS will copyright
Greetings,
me for
delegates
sure.
and guests.
So we got to
I'm
pause this
Sean
a lot.
O'Brien, General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
Oh damn, Trump looks so disgusting there.
I'd like to give my peeps from the greatest state in the nation, Massachusetts, some props. What's up? First, I want to thank the hardworking Teamsters and union members here in Milwaukee who play vital roles in the building and operations of this convention.
Yeah, it's the 2024 RNC.
I also want to thank President Donald Trump for opening the RNC's doors to the Teamsters Union and inviting me to speak before you tonight.
Oh my God. Yeah, Trump looks rough there.
I travel all across this country and meet with my members every week. You know what I see? An American worker being taken for granted.
Yup.
Workers being sold out to big banks, big tech, corporates, and the elite. And I'm not the only one who sees this. Everyday families see it. The American people aren't stupid. They know the system is broken. We all know how Washington is run. Working people have no chance of winning this fight. That's why I'm here today. Because I refuse to keep doing the same things my predecessors did.
Yup. That's pretty good. I mean, he's There's nothing, I don't think, really concerning,
Today-
like bad, he said.
Today, the Teamsters are here to say we are not beholden to anyone or any party.
There you go. I think that's the main point that he was trying to make by coming to the Republican
We will
National
create
Convention.
an agenda and work with a
Convention.
bipartisan coalition ready to accomplish something real for the American worker. And I don't care about getting criticized. It's an honor to be the first Teamster in our 121-year history to address the Republican National Convention.
Yeah, he got a lot of cheers for that.
Several months ago, I asked the RNC and the DNC for the opportunity to speak. To be frank, when President Trump invited me to speak at this convention, there was political unrest on the left and on the right.
Oh, that's when he still had
Hard to believe.
the pad on his ear.
Anti-union groups demanded the president rescind his invitation. The left called me a traitor.
Damn. Booze. Booze
And
against the
this
left.
is precisely why it's so important for me to be here today. Think about this. Think about this. The Teamsters are doing something correct. If the extremes in both parties think I shouldn't be on this stage.
Yeah.
President Trump had the backbone to open the doors to this Republican convention, and that's unprecedented. No other nominee in the race would have invited the Teamsters into this arena. Now, you can have whatever opinion you want, but one thing is clear. President Trump is a candidate who is not afraid of hearing from new, loud, and often critical voices. And I think we all can agree, whether people like him or they don't like him, in light of what happened to him on Saturday, he has proven to be one tough SOB.
Dang. Oh, there's the, whoa. That's crazy. Yeah, but Trump lied about being behind workers 100%. Trump was always going to use whoever. Look at, he's getting a bigger applause than Sean O'Brien, and that's crazy. He's not even the speaker.
Now, when I won the presidency of the Teamsters in a national election 2.5 years ago, we started reaching across the aisle. In the past, the Teamsters have endorsed GOP candidates, including Nixon, Reagan, and George H.W. Bush.
Yep.
But over the last 40 years, the Republican Party has really pursued strong relationships with organized labor. There are some in the party who stand in active opposition to labor unions. This too must change. And I want to be clear. At the end of the day, the Teamsters are not interested if you have a D, R, or an I next to your name. We want to know one thing. What are you doing to help American workers?
Yup. Oh my God, they got pictures of people
As a
wearing hard
negotiator,
hats. Disgusting.
I know that no window or door should ever be permanently shut.
Yeah.
In my administration, the Teamsters reached out to 8 Republican senators who stood up for railroad Teamsters over our fight for paid sick leave. Josh Hawley was one of them.
Damn. Damn. He's shouting out Josh Hawley. Crazy.
We started talking. Senator Hawley changed his position on national right to work. Then we started walking. Senator Hawley walked a Teamsters picket line in St. Louis and a UAW picket line in Wentzville, Missouri. More than that, I want to recognize Senator Hawley for his direct, relentless, and pointed questioning of corporate talking heads, lawyers, CEOs, and apologists.
Crazy.
He has shown he is not willing to accept their pillaging of working people's pocketbooks. I know from a career in negotiating that you get nowhere by slamming your fist on the table. The first step is to listen. The Teamsters and the GOP may not agree on many issues, but a growing group has shown the courage to sit down and consider points of view that aren't funded by big money think tanks.
Yeah. That is true.
Senators like J.D. Vance, Roger Marshall,
Oof. J.D. Vance
and
funded by
Representatives Nicole Maliotakis, Mike Lawler, and Brian
Thiel.
Fitzpatrick are among elected officials who truly care about working people. And this group is expanding and is putting fear into those who have monopolized our very broken system in America today. There are far too many people on both sides of the aisle still caught up in knee-jerk reactions to unions, who subscribe to the same tired claptrap that unions destroy American companies.
Yep.
Take a moment to consider United Parcel Service, which is the largest private sector logistics company.
Sorry, the way
and
he
has been
said
unionized for
parcel.
more than 100
United
years.
Parcel Service.
More than 350,000 Teamsters
UPS.
make it run. We work for good middle-class wages, quality health care, and secure pensions. There are work rules that ensure fairness and due process for both sides. UPS is the most efficient package delivery company in the world.
Postal.
But let's not forget that UPS doesn't provide these great wages and benefits out of the kindness of its heart. UPS does it because the Teamsters fight for it, all 350,000 of us.
Damn.
You know, corporatists hate when working people join together to form unions. But for a century, major employers have waged a war against labor by forming corporate unions of their own.
Yeah.
We need to call
Super
the
PACs.
Chamber of Commerce and the business roundtables what they are. They are unions for big business.
Yup.
And here's another fact. Against gigantic multinational corporation, an individual worker has zero power. It's only when Americans band together in democratic unions that we win real improvements on wages, benefits, and working conditions. Companies like Amazon are bigger than most national economies. Amazon is valued over $2 trillion.
Amazon.
That makes it the 14th largest economy in the world.
That's
What is
crazy.
sickening
Yeah.
is that Amazon has abandoned any national allegiance. Amazon's sole focus is on lining its own pockets.
Yep,
Remember,
most
elites
corporations
have no
are.
Party, elites have no nation.
Yup.
Their loyalty is to the balance sheet and the stock
Oh,
price at
like
the
no one's
expense
clapping.
of the American worker.
Wow, that should have hit so hard. It hits hard when Alex Jones says it, but he's just calling them the globalist
In my office
vampires.
in Washington, D.C., I can see the United States Capitol from my window. I see well-intentioned people arrive in Washington
And turn
get
back.
eaten up by an unforgiving system.
The swamp.
The responsibility to average Americans takes a back seat. The objective now becomes survival. Fundraiser after
Yup.
fundraiser.
Yup.
Corporate consultants hedge every initiative. The Hill crawls with lifers, bouncing from government jobs to corporate jobs and back again. I think we can all agree D.C. is a pretty treacherous area. Most legislation is never meant to go anywhere, and it's all talk. And in America, talk isn't cheap. It's very expensive, and it
Oh,
comes
yeah.
at the cost of our own country.
Call out Citizens United. Call out Citizens
Working
United.
people know our system is broken. The elites are not laboring on behalf of workers. There is a political caste system that prevents
Yup.
citizens from accessing their representatives to hold them accountable. For a moment in time, working people in America were seen as essential. Sadly, it took a
in
global
2020.
pandemic for political and corporate elites to notice this fact. But ask yourself this question. Since the end of the pandemic, when was the last time you heard major news outlets regularly refer to workers as essential?
Amen.
You haven't.
Never.
The men and women who provide goods and services, deliver packages, stock grocery shelves, care for patients, pick up your trash, and keep our communities safe are taken for granted. All the while, the stock market booms, housing prices hit record highs, and corporate salaries skyrocket. But the income of everyday Americans are shrinking in the face of inflation. At the gas
There we go.
pumps,
Wow,
at
he's
the
speaking
grocery
so
store,
much
with the
good
electrical
stuff.
bill and with the car insurance. This has got to change.
Barely anyone claps. That's crazy.
Never forget, American workers own this nation.
Sorry, I need to run that back. JD Vance did the most weirdest little hairbrush.
Never forget, American
What the
workers
fuck?
own this.
Hold on. Watch this. Watch this, chat.
Never forget.
Oh, let me do it in slow-mo. Sorry, I'm obsessed with this.
American
What?
workers own this.
Crazy.
Never forget.
Here we go.
American workers.
Yeah, I guess the
own
couch did
this
mess up his hair.
nation.
Cause that was intense. That
We are
was a
not
whole
renters.
fist.
We are not tenants, but the corporate elite treat us like squatters, and that is a crime. We've got to fix it.
That's right. Call out the corporate elites.
Now, this will shock you. This will shock you. To paraphrase Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, it's time for both sides of Congress to stand their butts up. We need trade policies that put American workers first. It needs to be easier for companies to remain in America. We need legal protections that make it safer for workers to get a contract.
Yup.
We must stop corporations from abandoning local communities to inflate their bottom line. We need meaningful bankruptcy reform today.
Oh, damn,
Corporate
yeah,
brokers
hell
buy
yeah.
up companies like Yellow Freight with the intent of driving them into bankruptcy and feasting on their remains. The courts leave workers begging for crumbs as third-tier creditors. Labor law must be reformed. Americans vote for a union but can never get a union contract. Companies fire workers who try to join unions and hide behind toothless laws that are meant to protect working people but are manipulated to benefit corporations. This is economic terrorism at its best. An individual cannot withstand such an assault. A
Yup.
fired worker cannot
Damn, that's-
afford corporate delays, and these greedy employers know it. There are no consequences for the company, only the worker.
Yup.
We need corporate welfare reform.
Corporate
Under our
welfare
current system,
reform.
massive
Amen.
companies like Amazon, Uber, Lyft, and Walmart take zero responsibilities for the workers they employ.
Call them
These
out.
companies offer no real health insurance, no retirement benefits, no paid leave, relying on underfunded public assistance. And who foots the bill? The individual taxpayer.
Oh my God, I
The
thought he
biggest
said a
recipients
different
of
F
welfare in this
word.
country are corporations.
He said, who foots the bill? And for a second, I thought he said a different 4-letter F word. That's scary. It's just his Boston accent, I guess. Yeah, it's good to see you, Bashone in a box. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
And this is real corruption. We must put workers first. What could be more important to the security of our nation than a long-term investment in the American worker? In 2021, Teamsters nationwide elected me to fight for them, and that's precisely what I'm doing. Something is wrong in this country, and we need to say it out loud. I will always speak for America and the American worker, both union and non-union.
Amen. Yeah.
I challenge each and every one of you, and especially my friends on the Democratic side, to embrace cooperation, to truly collaborate, to achieve meaningful and productive change, to ensure we make this great nation in this world the bigger, faster, and strongest nation in the entire world.
Damn.
I love this country. The Teamsters love this country. Our 1.3 million members move America on the roads, in the ports, on the rail, and in the air.
Amen.
And at the end of the day, if the powers to be stop me from raising my voice on behalf of American workers, I will not have one single regret. I still carry my commercial driver's license. I still have my place on the union seniority list. You'll find me back in Boston driving a tractor trailer, delivering equipment for Shaughnessy and Ahern. Because I have the protection of a union contract that gives me the freedom to speak my mind and to fight like hell. God bless the greatest nation. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was epic. The consensus after this was Democrats were like, he's a traitor. Yeah, he's lobster. I don't know how similar the Rhode Island accent is to the Boston accent, or if they're the same accent. But it's just Peter Griffin. Oh man. Okay. All right. Let's get into. Sorry, I don't mean to always. Let's get into interview of Sean O'Brien's. Here you go. Let's watch Bari Weiss, which we all should know who she is now. She's the person that took over CBS, or I should say is in charge. The editor.
One word to describe the following people: Donald Trump.
The editor of CBS. Let me make sure I'm getting my facts right. Or I think it's Bari Weiss. I have to say Bari Weiss. Okay, yeah, she is editor-in-chief at CBS. And so some interesting things about her is she is very pro Israel. And okay, there it says it right there. I spent much time talking about Zionism and Israel for a course of the entire okay. So see, she's very if there's any time to call out to point out someone being an AIPAC plant, I would say Bari Weiss is that time. So Divya said, I like the dog Brian from the Family Show. Brian is amazing. But yeah, so keep in mind, Bari Weiss, a bit of a liberal for sure, but definitely, I don't know how much her pro-Israel stance goes.
Chaos. Elizabeth Warren.
It's a reason why we have pensions.
AOC.
Great bartender.
Let's talk about Bernie Sanders for a second, because
He doesn't talk to me anymore.
if Jeff Bezos were sitting here, what would you say to him?
Oh, I'd call him a piece of shit.
From the Free Press, this is Honestly, and I'm Bari Weiss. The question of who represents the working class is probably the hottest debate in American politics right now. Is it the Republicans, is it the Democrats, or is it socialists like Zohran Mamdani? Pundits can debate that question all they want. But the
against Zohran
undeniable
because he's
test
so
might be
pro-Palestine.
this. Who do unions believe stand for working people? For a century, unions in America were undeniably democratic. And in 2021, Biden tried to carry on that tradition. He went so far as to say, I intend to be the most pro-union president, leading the most pro-union administration in American history. Then in 2020,
Sorry to cut her off, although I don't care about cutting her off. She's 100% right. Joe Biden historically has been the most pro-union president, and that's freaking crazy. He's been like the only like president to like go on walk a picket line and like walk with strikers. That's crazy. Joe Biden. And I remember at the time that this news came out, and like everyone was like just not making a big deal out of it. And I'm like, we should have made it the biggest deal. It was historic, but because I think maybe unions are so at an all-time low or at a low level at the moment, it just kind of wasn't that important. But, you know, it's crazy. All right.
2023, he became the first sitting president to walk a picket line, joining United Auto Workers in their strike against General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. But as the Democratic Party moved left and then further left, many union members, people who had been reliable Democratic voters, broke the mold and voted Republican. In 2024, nearly half of union households voted for Donald Trump. So what was it? Was it Trump's hatred of NAFTA? Was it his promise to bring manufacturing back to America? Was it his character, however you define that? Was it the left's preoccupation with boutique issues? Or was it that these union members wanted to send a middle finger to the current American elite? That shift was most palpable, I think, when Teamsters president Sean O'Brien spoke at the 2024 Republican National Convention, despite being a lifelong Democrat. It felt like a new era. At the Free Press, we've reported extensively on how the Democratic Party lost the working class. But 6 months into Trump's second term, the question is, are working class Trump voters happy with their choice? And how has Trump been for labor in America? Sean O'Brien, the voice you heard at the RNC, is the president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, representing 1.3 million union workers. It's one of the biggest unions in the country. As Sean puts it, they represent airline pilots to zookeepers and everyone in between. That in between includes truck drivers, warehouse workers, mechanics, baggage handlers, construction workers, UPS drivers. UPS happens to be their largest employer. And basically, the Teamsters have organized workers in every occupation imaginable. It's not just that Sean is the Teamsters president. It's that he himself is a fourth-generation union member, having joined the Local 25 at 17 years old as a heavy equipment driver in Boston. He has spent more than 30 years in the union and has a unique vantage point from which he sees American organized labor. Today on Honestly, I asked Sean why he spoke at the RNC, why he's still a Democrat, how Trump has been for labor given his coziness with Elon Musk, Doge, and now his big, beautiful bill. I asked how Democrats can win union workers back, and if the unions can find their footing again. I asked how he plans to organize Amazon. You'll hear that he has some choice words for Jeff Bezos, among many others. And how to ensure that more American workers have access to what we used to call the American dream.
Crazy. Deviate said literally anyone
Sean
even
O'Brien,
slightly left
welcome to
of
Honestly.
MAGA they
Thank you
consider
very much. I love
liberals,
the
they are
title.
dumb.
Very, very
Or they
happy to
call
have you here.
progressive
Doesn't seem
people
like there's a lot of
liberal is what
honesty
I
in the
meant to
world
say,
anymore.
yeah.
Well, we try and do that here on the show.
I'm sure.
I
you
hate when
but
they
it's-
do that.
There's a pandemic out there. A lot of people call diabetes.
Oh my God, I've never heard that.
Yeah, they're making a vaccine for it right now. Hopefully they'll call it Truthsalin, where people can start telling the truth and calling balls and strikes.
Well, I like having people on who I feel embody the title of the show, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited that you're here. And I want to start by just talking a little bit about how you grew up. Your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather immigrated from Ireland. All were members of Local 25 in Boston. What did the union mean to you and your family when you were growing up?
Oh, it was an icon. It was like, growing up in Boston, you always hear of the great sport teams like the Boston Celtics, Boston Bruins. Well, the Teamsters Union, in my eyes, and the way that we were brought up, was an icon. The
Yeah,
Teamsters Union was so prevalent.
it should be.
And there were so many people, especially in the communities we grew up with, that were members of the Teamsters Union. So, I mean, for me personally, and I've said this recently at an event I was at, I'm like, this organization has been so important to me in my entire life. Like I knew at 8 years old that I wanted to be a Teamster. I wanted to drive a truck. I wanted to be just like my father. And, we
That's
would be
so
sitting around in
crazy.
school.
That's so cute.
And, what do you want to do when you grow up? No, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a pro athlete. I was like, I want to drive a truck for the Teamsters Union. But it meant everything to me. It still does. I mean, I love the organization. And I never thought I'd be the general president, but I knew I wanted to run Local 25. And I was in the union prior to going to college. We worked in the theater district and the Boston Garden, loading and unloading trucks.
You were a rigger.
I was a rigger by trade. Yeah, I did my apprenticeship program when I left school, and then I went right directly in full time.
Drop me into, you're 17 years old, you're 18 years old. What is the culture and sort of the political makeup of the Teamsters back then?
Well, the political makeup of the Teamsters back then is, so it's 1990 when I got in, but I was around it, obviously working, say, 88 to 89. It was a pretty tough culture because the government was involved in our affairs at that point in time. There was our general president at the time was a guy named Billy McCarthy, who was the president of Teamsters Local 25, where I came out of. He signed my union card when I got in there. And the Teamsters were under a nationwide investigation where there was going to be an indictment nationwide of the Teamsters Union under the RICO Act because of organized crime.
Oh
So
my God, that's
McCarthy
crazy.
negotiated a deal to put us under a consent decree, which we're currently still under, which is government oversight. So back then, it was a lot different, the landscape. I mean, you still had some, bad people in the organization. You had organized crime in the major cities. So it was very intense. And, coming out of Boston, especially where we grew up, we knew what it was all about. And seeing the transformation to where it was, and you hear stories from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and 80s. But where we were back then when I first got into where we are now, leaps and bounds. I mean, our union's the cleanest union around, but going back then, it was tough. But I'll tell you, it was fun. I mean, back then, it was like playing football because you'd go on job sites when I was a steward, and you'd be arguing and fighting with pipe fitters and iron workers, but at the end of the day, everybody had a job to do.
That
Now
sounds
today,
like a
it's like
fun
if you're
time.
gonna get in a fight with someone or an argument, it's an attack on Facebook or Twitter or
Yeah, it sounds like that's what our young men should be doing. Thank you, DV8, for the sports info as always. Boston Garden was a hostile environment back then. Peak of Lakers versus Celtics rivalry. Sorry. That's crazy. Boston Garden. I wish I knew what that was, but I am not from Boston, nor have I ever been there. I would love to go though. I would love to go. I'm assuming Boston Garden is like, I don't know, the like main downtown area. Yeah. Um, but yeah, like I feel like I don't even know. I would love to see more apprenticeships happen and like you said, just these tradespeople, but I don't know, maybe because I'm a girl, I was never exposed to any of that or anything. Um, but yeah, I mean, we need more young people in America doing these kinds of jobs and making that kind of community. Because it's great. Joining a union is a good thing in that it gives you political power. It gives you a little bit more political, leverage, right? Because it's a group of people, and also it gives you community. You know, the community is seriously important. Going to your union meetings, if you're part of a union, that's going to your local is a third space. And we were constantly talking about how bad it is that young people don't have third spaces anymore. Well, we need to get more young people to be a part of unions, and then they can go and yeah, we need more community for sure. So I wish we'll see if Sean O'Brien can lead the Teamsters to build more community. But I think it's pretty good that he's tapped in on the internet. Um, like I don't know if any other union leaders are that tapped in on the internet, at least American.
one of them, or it's a pillow fight. You know what I mean? And you get a lot of keyboard warriors out there that if they were actually had to get in a tense situation, uh, compared to what it is now versus 30 years ago, I think there'd it would probably be a lot better because I'll tell you what, back then,
Better to sock someone in the face
not
than
even sock someone in the face, but the fear of knowing that there'd be a consequence for an action, right? Not so much a physical action, but back then you were brought up with a lot of respect. You came into a job, and you watched how that job was done. You didn't give your opinion until you were asked for it, And that's how you learn. Now, anybody can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, whether it's true or not, or get on a social media platform. It's like people just want to say something negative no matter what it is. And no matter what you do, you could do 10 things great. And the one thing that, you may not be able to control and doesn't have the outcome that someone wants, you're no good. And that's all people talk about. And it's like, come on, well, yeah, let's look back at what we did. And, I went through something similar when I spoke at the RNC. We come off negotiating a $30 billion deal, the UPS, largest contract ever, largest settlement, still the best contract ever, 340,000 members. And after I speak at the RNC, I get completely attacked by the left, the DSA
Yeah.
warriors that,
Oh,
sit on a
damn. He
key.
called out the DSA. Uh, that's crazy. The socialist online sat at a keyboard, called him out. DVA is so connected to the internet that he knows about Marvin Beek. That is true. Marvin Beek. One day we'll get a Marvin Beek emo. I just want, or a Marvin Beek pyramid. That would be cool.
Board. They think it's okay to burn flags in the middle of the street and everything else.
Oh,
And then you have
damn.
people
That's
saying, well,
crazy.
UPS lost the Amazon account.
We
The
have the
Teamsters
right
did
to
it.
burn flags in
Why did we do
America.
it?
It's our
Oh, the contract
constitutional
was too
right.
rich. No, Amazon has more money than most nations in the world. So no, that's not it. But it's just like everybody has something to say. And it used to bother me. It doesn't bother me anymore. It really doesn't, because I know that at the end of the day, you just stick to your core disciplines, your core values, and never forget who you work for. And we're going to be good. We're going to be great. I mean, we organized 80,000 members in 3 years. We're negotiating the strongest contracts. We struck Amazon. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And
I want to talk about
all
Amazon a
people want
little
to
later.
focus on is he spoke at the RNC. Oh shit, I was asked to speak there. I would have spoken at the DNC and gave the same speech.
Okay, well, I want to talk about that.
Okay,
One
let's
sort
hear
of broad question before we talk about that major decision, which is what put you on my radar and the radars of so many other Americans. There was this idea, I think about like my grandparents' generation, or even to a large extent my parents, that you could have a stable, comfortable middle class life in this country with on a one parent income. You could have, the Chevy in the garage, the chicken in the oven. Like this, there was this almost caricature of the American dream that was tenable for people.
It may be a vacation
Exactly.
once a year, right?
Now that feels like another, just literally, it feels like it could be the Middle Ages. It feels so far away. And you hear about, I'm sure you have your anecdotes. I have mine of, getting in an Uber and talking to the Uber driver and finding out that this is like their third job, or
Right.
it's a
Oh,
public
yeah,
school
it
teacher and they can't make
freaking
ends meet, so they have to
sucks.
drive Uber at night. When you think about just the seismic change to where it used to be possible to have one
See
working
you later, DVA.
parent
Thank you for
and
joining us
provide for your
today.
family, to
Have a good
now
one.
where you have two working parents and even those 9-to-5 jobs are not sufficient to support a family. Who's the culprit? Who's to blame? Is it technology? Is it an attitude that we have toward labor? Who's to blame for the fact that you can't have that anymore?
Well, I think there's such a disparity between the haves and have-nots, right? You look at, the cost of buying a home now compared to 35, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. You look at the cost of purchasing a vehicle, you look at the cost of tuition. I mean, it is so out of whack, where people can't live on one income. And the other thing too is I think we've made it too easy in a society to put people in debt, right? When you don't have the cash, right? What do? You put it on a credit card.
Yep.
And those credit cards are 19 to 29 to 30%, depending on your credit. So it's like a strategy, I think, just to keep people in debt now and, make them beholden to working 2 or 3 jobs. Think about it. I mean, my father worked 2 jobs, right? My mother was not a stay-at-home mother. She worked, she hustled. But when you look at a family now, you look at 2 parents working probably 2 demanding jobs,
Yeah.
just making ends meet because they paid so much more for their house. They pay so much more in taxes. They're paying so much more for vehicles. You can't go out and buy a vehicle for $3,500 anymore. You can buy a good used one, maybe for $45,000, which you're going to pay higher interest because you're in debt everywhere else. So I think it's just a combination of people not embracing unionized workers where you can actually fight for better wages, better conditions. I think too, because that had to do with a lot of deregulation in a lot of industries. Too, I just think there's such a disparity between executive pay versus everybody else.
100%.
And I just think society is out of whack and needs a reset.
Okay, so you mentioned your speech at the RNC,
Right.
and I want to get there by talking about what the Teamsters did in the 2024 election, which is that you gave each of the candidates a 16-question
Yes.
interview to answer. Tell me about this process.
So we felt it was important because, we came in as a new leadership in 2022. We were sworn in. And I've been around the team since a long time. And the one thing that we learned during campaigning, and then we learned in a previous election, was that there was no inclusiveness of rank and file members in a lot of things we do or did back then. And there wasn't any type of transparency in the process. In other words, the president of the Teamsters historically would say, we're going to endorse Joe Biden. Okay, well, why? And where's the data or information to support why we should endorse them? So
Yeah, I mean,
we
honestly.
said, the one thing we did, and again, you learn everything from home, like your values in your neighborhood to your workplace. Well, I did the same. Like I knew when I was running Local 25, which was 12,500 members, that whenever we did something like an election on a statewide level, we would always poll our members that lived in those communities that were going to be affected by it. So we took that kind of discipline and policy and brought it to a federal level. And when we started to do this, don't forget, a lot of the major unions jumped right in right away with Biden, Harris. And that was probably like December of 23. And we're like, no, we're not going to do that. We need to poll our members. Why are you going to poll your members? Well, those are the people that we're going to be telling to vote. And if we're going to tell someone to vote for a candidate, we want to make sure that's who they want to vote for. So we brought every single presidential candidate, which has never been done before, into our building. We gave them the 16 questions, all, concerning
What were some of the
labor.
questions?
Just concerning labor. Do you support national right to work?
Right.
Which none of us do. Do you support the right to organize? Do you support, would you
Right.
support a strike? So it was all kind of softball questions, right? And we also had rank and file members around the table. And I remember a lot of other organizations were endorsing right away. And we're like, no, we can't. We don't know where our members stand. And the difference
Were you
is
the only union to not endorse?
the
right away?
firefighters,
Okay.
Eddie Kelly, he's another Boston guy, real good guy, does a good job. They got about 300,000 members nationwide. But so what we did was we did polling. So the first polling we did was a straw poll, right, where we have 319 union halls nationwide. And you call everybody into a meeting, and you're going to get the people that support you and your local union
Yeah.
into these meetings. So we figured, it's going to be 80-20, Biden, Harris.
Yeah.
Well, it was like 35 Biden, Harris, 30 Trump, and then, others.
That's
So
literally the
Damn,
breakdown of
that's
this
crazy.
office.
so
but yes.
I went like this. I went, well, this wasn't a good gauge.
Right.
So then we have a magazine that goes out to 1.3 of our million members. So we do the straw poll, then the debate happens.
The catastrophic debate.
The catastrophic debate, which, say what you will. I mean, I felt bad for the guy. I really did. I mean, he should have never been put in that position.
Yeah.
So we put out a QR code on a publication that goes to 1.3 million of our members. And we had like a record turnout of people, like 180,000 that actually responded. Because look, no one reads the mail, right? But when we were pushing it out there on all our social media platforms, we got like 185,000 people
a lot.
to respond, which is a lot, right? And 65% of them were voting Republican. 35% or 33 point something were voting Democrat, and I think the remaining were independent, or it might have been 65,
So you're
35.
basically representing an organization that not only is not leading for the Democrat, which most people would assume, but is seeming to lean Republican. And so you invite all of these candidates into your headquarters.
Right.
Tell me what happened when Kamala Harris showed up.
When we invited them all in, President Trump was like the first to respond. Yeah, we'll do it. Give us a date. And we had we had every one of the candidates in, and they were all characters. I mean, Cornel West, he showed up with a boxing glove for me signed because I almost got in a fight with Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. So he showed up with a boxing glove signed. I mean, just good people. Like, got to meet some good people through
damn,
the
it must
process.
be a thing.
I totally forgot he ran. What was RFK like?
RFK was, pretty passionate. And, he said all the right things. It's just, he wasn't going to win.
Right.
And then, but my point to all this was Trump said right away, yeah, we'll come in. Okay, schedule him. We got the majority of all the candidates in early. And, the last three, which was Trump, Biden, and then Harris. Trump came in probably January of 24. And then trying to get Biden in after that, it was like dealing with his staff. They were kind of offended that we would expect him to go through this.
Really?
They were pissed off at that, but they were like offended that we asked them that they had to come in. And so we ended up getting that done. And, Again,
Before he dropped out,
before he dropped out, and then after the debate, to get Harris in there, like she was like appalled that we would even ask her to commit. Like, and
How did that get expressed?
I'll tell you how it got expressed. So we had a general executive board meeting probably around June of 2024. And there was an event that one of our vice presidents, Joan Corey, she's out of my local, she went to, I don't know if it was an Emily's List event the day before our general executive board, and Vice President Harris was there. And so they do a photo op line. So Joan goes in the line and Joan says, I'm Joan Corey, I'm a vice president with the Teamsters Union. And she pointed her finger at Joan and said, Teamsters better get on board. And so Joan says, excuse me? Yeah, Teamsters better get on board. I don't know why you haven't endorsed me yet. So she comes back and she tells me this. And I'm like, the nerve, right? So that happens. And then we eventually get her in before our general executive board. And again, like you said, there were 16 questions. They all had the same 16 questions. Trump might have answered 9 of them or whatever. Biden only answered about 5 or 6. And then Harris's campaign, or people were trying to negotiate how many she was going to answer, and said, we're only going to answer 3. And it was like a 1 hour deal, 1 hour venue.
That's crazy.
And so she really didn't answer the questions. And then on the 4th question,
Man, the Harris campaign, like the more info that comes out, the more we hear about different people's perspectives of this situation. It's just like so clear that the Harris campaign messed up bad on the media tour. Because they refused to go on Joe Rogan. They refused to, participate with the Teamsters. That's crazy. Harris campaign just messed up bad. I don't know what went wrong in their minds, but that led them to make these decisions. But oh my God, just like not talking to people in a time when we desperately needed to talk to people, and you're like, that's crazy.
Staff slides me an index card and says, this is the last question. She's not answering anymore, because she wanted to like pontificate and give her speech of why the country's the way it is, why we should endorse her. And she did that a little bit. And then at the end, her closing was, listen, I'm going to win with you or without you.
Damn.
And it was like such a smug answer, like, okay. And that turned the majority of the people in that room off her, because we do what we call a hot wash. And the hot wash is important because instead of pointing out what everybody did bad, as a leader, after every critical situation or critical mission, I would start out saying, this is what I could have done better. This is what we should have did. So I did the same thing. Maybe we should have asked this question.
Postmortem.
Postmortem, right?
Yeah.
So after that comment, after that body language, and you can tell someone's body language.
Totally.
You could smell it a mile away. And then once we announced that there was going to be no endorsement, that's when all the keyboard warriors came out, and the attacks from the DSA, and my friends that were allegedly my friends that were high-ranking senators on the Democratic Party. They didn't have a problem taking a check for $550,000 for the national PAC. But once I spoke with the RNC, then I was no good.
So just to summarize it for people, 9 out of 10 of the biggest unions endorsed Kamala Harris.
Right.
The Teamsters, this was the first time in 30 years that they hadn't endorsed, right?
Yeah, we didn't endorse in '96.
Okay.
That was we have this times we haven't endorsed.
But you were the first Teamsters leader to ever speak at the RNC.
Yes.
Okay.
Since 1903, we've been in business.
How did you come to the decision to do that?
We said, look, and again, we talk about basics, right? I learned in Massachusetts working to get stuff done politically. And Massachusetts is different. Republicans and Democrats are a lot different than they are around the other parts of the country. Always worked with both sides, worked with the Democrats, worked with the Republicans. And, when we got down to DC, I'm like, we've got to start establishing relationships, because it seems like everything is we just keep giving money to Democrats that don't do anything for us. Let's develop relationships. We started doing this well before any of this, presidential election came up. We were meeting with people like Josh Hawley, Roger Marshall. We were meeting with people we normally wouldn't meet with, and still meeting with the Republicans.
But also the politics have just changed
the politics is so whacked. I mean, it's just, and I think this election, the result of this election, proved the priorities and then the platform of the Democratic Party. And look, I'm a Democrat, Still, yeah. And I don't know if they want me to be, but I still am. And, this election should signify that something is broken in the Democratic Party. Instead of pointing fingers and blaming people, what's the solution to get working people back to where we once collaborated and worked, and we didn't dictate to our constituents? I gave this speech I gave it Tuesday in Hawaii, the IATSE convention, and I explained everything we did through the election process. I explained, how transparency, all this stuff. So the thing ends, and it was great, well received. My message. I'm walking through the lobby, and this lady, she comes up to me, and you know how you look at certain people, and you go, okay, this is a lefty. This is a lefty, right?
Damn, this
And
is a
not because of the
lefty?
way she stands in the batter's box or throws the ball, but you could just tell. And she was like,
Damn.
there was a bunch of people I was saying hi to
She
walking
said
out,
because
and
she's
she
a
grabs me and she's like, what? Because in my speech I said, 65% of our members voted Republican. So she walks up to me and says, and I'm always respectful of people, and she says, what are you going to do to educate those 65% of your members? I says, nothing. Why? She's like, well, obviously they voted the wrong way. I go, according to who? I said,
Damn.
the question should be, what are those Democrats that once had organized labor, rank and file members, what should they be doing? Should they be reaching out to these members and find out what they should be doing differently? Because if I reach out to my members and try and dictate to them how they should vote when they've told me how they want to vote, isn't that counterproductive? So isn't there some responsibility from the elected officials that lost the support of working people? Well, I never thought of it that way. Oh, of course you didn't.
Oh my
So
God,
it's just some of that
idiot.
mentality.
So the big story, right, is that when I was growing up, Democrats were the party of working people. Democrats were the party of labor unions. Like that was just baked in.
It was like it was like 10th grade geometry. It was a given.
Exactly. So I want you to pretend you are one of those 65%. Why are those people? Steelman their argument for me. Okay, tell me why they're voting for Trump, because the average Democratic senator or congressman will say, what is wrong with these people? They are voting against their economic interests, and they don't see it that way.
Well,
So
I
why
think-
are they voting the
I
way they're
think
voting?
first and foremost, our members are pretty sophisticated. They're a lot more educated. And, formulating opinions, to make such a vast change doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you look back and you think about this, and I say this a lot. Over the last 20 years, 16 out of those 20 years, it was a basically Democratic-controlled country, right? And when you look back, what did working people get out of those 16 out of 20 years? You look at the Obama administration, right? We had a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, Democratic president. And our biggest platform, when I say our biggest platform for labor, was the Employee Free Choice Act. That should have been a layup. We should have got that. We didn't get that, right? Joe Biden fixed pensions. And I'm glad he did, because one of mine was fixed. But he fixed a problem that was created by the Democrats in 1980 when they passed deregulation, right? And we lost 400,000 members in the Teamsters Union, in the trucking industry, which we lost 400,000 jobs. You lost good companies that were forced into bankruptcy, which you weren't getting pension contributions on, and it kept deteriorating. Then deregulation, flew through many other industries. And Ted Kennedy introduced the bill. Joe Biden signed off on it. Ronald Reagan signed off on it. So people forget why we're in that spot. So whenever someone say, oh, Joe Biden fixed your pension, he was the greatest president for union. He was a great president for union people. He fixed a pension. Yes, he did. But he broke it as well because, and I say this all the time. It's like me playing street hockey in my neighborhood in 1980. I break my mother's window. 40 years later, I decide to fix it, right? Should I get accolades for a problem that I helped
You
create?
created, right.
So, when I talk about things like that, but, the Democrats seem lately that, they're not, my thing is, I always look at it from a simple perspective. You're paying me to do something, or if you're electing me to do something, I work for you, okay? Where the Democrats lost, and I think you made a good point earlier, they fell in love with their captors. They fell in love with big money. They fell in love with big tech, and they forgot who they truly representing, working people. You know why? Because they're not in their communities, not in their neighborhoods. They're not talking to the people that they're paid to represent. And when you talk to people one-on-one, look, I can sit in my office all day, every day, and try and solve problems over the phone. And I'm not going to get a true testimonial what is actually going on. And I told you earlier, I'm in workplaces, my partner and I, we're in workplaces, 3 days, 3 different states per week. And we're not talking to leaders or anybody else. We're going to the shop floor is talking to rank and file members. That's where you get the best gauge. And that discipline should hold true. And I think the Democrats forgot that they need to be in their communities where they represent, talking to people, finding out and identifying the issues that truly matter. Look, this whole election for the Democrats was based on social justice issues, right? Our members, the Teamsters, and I can speak for the Teamsters, we solve a lot of those social justice issues by negotiating the strongest contracts, by fighting for rights, fighting for diversity, fighting for, equality in the workplace. And it seemed like this narrative of the social justice issues, it didn't identify with our members. Our members identify with more money in their pockets, more job protection, better pensions.
Core issues,
and a path from the start of your job into a career, into retirement. I mean, it's simple block and tackling. And that's not what our members wanted to hear.
So 65% of your members, let's say, voted Trump. You speak at the RNC. Why not go the whole way and just endorse him?
Because we still have to serve the 35%. of our other members that, we've got to respect their opinions as well. And yeah, I mean, I got questioned. Well, that's the majority.
Right.
Right. But the majority, that's okay when you're ratifying a contract or anything else. This is like the direction of this country for the United States. And look, let's be candid. I mean, this was probably one of the most bizarre elections and unpredictable elections we're probably ever going to see in our lifetime. So if you made a choice either way, I mean, that was a pretty significant gamble. And we talked as an executive board based upon what our members said. It was in the best interest of, our members that we've got to respect, who's voting Republican, but we also have to respect who's voting Democrat as well.
What was the response from rank and file members to your speech?
We got a good response. I mean, you're always going to get people that are critical. I got more criticism from other labor leaders in different unions, and and it's fine. Some of them were my friends.
Do you guys have like a WhatsApp group where you're all talking to each other?
No, I stay off all that shit, to be honest.
But like,
with
are you in pretty close communication with other labor leaders?
I really was. I'll be honest with you, it just feels like right now sometimes you're on an island by yourself. But look,
you're on an island by yourself because of politics.
But a lot of these unions, I get along with all of them. I mean, now when I see them, we're fine. But there's a different change in attitude towards us. I mean, I can't believe it didn't go with Harris and Walz. I'm like, awful candidates. They didn't identify with our members. Yeah, but I go, what do you think? Your members are voting any differently than mine?
Right. And what do they say?
Oh, we know our members. I'm like, well, maybe you do. I said, but the fact is, I got to worry about the people that give me the honor and privilege to serve them, and that's what we did. But to your point, look, I get along with everybody. But I've seen some of the emails that I wasn't supposed to see. I've seen some of the texts,
like
just like, I can't believe this bald-headed bastard from Boston isn't endorsing, Biden or isn't endorsing Harris. And I know who they are. And it's funny when I talk to them, I'm just looking at them. I haven't called them out.
Other labor leaders.
Oh, yeah. And I'm laughing because it's
well, one of them might be, I don't know, United Auto Workers President Sean Fain. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, there was sort of like this sort of tale of two Seans because I watched you.
There's only one Sean that matters.
Well, I guess I'm sitting across from
that Sean spells his name correctly, by the way.
Okay, amazing. Well, you're at the RNC speaking.
Right.
In the meantime, he's at the DNC sounding a very different note. People might remember it. He called Trump a lapdog of the billionaire class. He said things like, when Donald Trump was president, corporate America ran wild. Donald Trump didn't bring back the auto industry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What were you seeing that he was not?
Well, see, the difference is I had conversations with President Trump, and he said, look, I want to bring industry back here. I want to bring jobs back here. I want to make sure that, we put a strong immigration policy. We're not losing good Americans. Americans aren't losing jobs to immigrants. I mean, his whole campaign was based upon the borders, the crisis of the borders, but it also entailed, creating jobs. Now, yeah, Sean Fain was pretty bold, but again, I had conversations with President Trump where I knew that he wanted companies back here. He was very critical of the bad trade deals about the tariffs. A lot of the stuff was done in the early 90s as well under the Clinton administration. So, I mean, look, I'm a person that if I'm going to call you out, I'm going to know exactly what I'm calling you out over. I'm going to call you out based upon a lot of qualified information that I have. Sometimes people run their mouths and people say things, and then, look, right now, I mean, I think you're going to see the auto industry coming back to the United States strong. I think you've already seen commitments to that, which is going to benefit his members. I think if you asked him right now, and again, I don't talk to Sean Fain at all, and there's no issue. It's just, I think if you asked him, if you had to, tone down your rhetoric a little bit, knowing what was going to be coming your way, would you have acted the same way at the DNC? And that's a question he has to answer. Me personally, if I got the opportunity to speak there, I would have gave that same exact speech
that you gave to the RNC at the DNC.
Yeah, absolutely, I would have, because it actually was more fitting at this point in time when I was talking about corporate elitists. I think there's more corporate elitists that were represented in this election in the Democratic Party than there were in the Republican Party.
Say more. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you look at like big
I
tech,
don't know about that, but
I fight against Uber, Lyft,
big
every
tech.
single day.
No, you're right.
Google, all the rest of them. And Kamala Harris's brother-in-law, Tony, whatever his name is, he's like the general counsel for Uber. So where is their priority if she gets elected? Where's the, what's his motive, right? Other than he's good with money, but look, he's going to be loyal to who he works for. And you can see it right now. You look in California, Governor Newsom, we put a bipartisan bill that we worked in California on regarding driverless autonomous vehicles. We had full support, a majority support, bipartisan. And we put that to his desk and he vetoes it. He vetoes the requirement of and why? Because he's in love with big tech and they support him, and he thinks they're going to be supporting him in his probably presidential election.
Let's go through just some of the issues. Trump's been president for how many months?
6 months, 7 months.
Okay, so it just feels like a lot longer than that.
Right.
But let's go through some of the core issues. So immigration, he's basically closed the southern border.
Right.
Now there's these, deportations that are happening, in my view, sort of terrorizing a lot of people who are just here to have a good life for their children. But let's leave that part of it to the side. The broad story sort of told by Donald Trump, and I would say lots of people on the, let's say, pro-union, anti-immigrant, not anti-immigrant, anti-illegal immigrant right, is that more immigrants to this country, like there's basically a set pie. And the more immigrants you have in this country, those immigrants are taking away good jobs for American workers. Do you think that that's broadly a true story?
You know, there's two sides to that argument, right? It's like, so I don't think anybody, especially a parent of two children, and you're a parent as well, you don't want people coming into this country illegally to commit violent crimes against women, children, or trafficking.
Why is he
or anything
falling
else,
for this
right?
narrative?
Those people should not be allowed to be in this country, and if they are, they should be deported. You've got other people that have come over here the right way. My great-grandparents came over from Ireland. They went to the Catholic Church. They were shown the path to a home, a job, and naturalization. And I don't think anybody has a problem if that's the way it's going to be. I go, if anything, I think
That's not an
immigration
option
now, there should
available
be a
today.
quicker and more expedited path to citizenship if people come over with the right intentions to honor this country, cherish it, obey the laws of this country, and be a good American citizen. I don't think anybody has a problem with that.
But I want to ask you about like sort of the economic story, right? There's sort of two stories that are told, right? One story goes like this. Immigrants, illegal or, coming here legally, they're doing the kinds of jobs, the kind of manual labor, tedious labor, backbreaking work that Americans just don't want to do. Then there's another story, which is, no, Americans do want to do those jobs. The problem is that illegal immigrants are sort of artificially suppressing wages.
Yeah, I mean,
what's the right story?
Well, I think two stories there. I think one, you're 100% right. When you have, low wage earners, illegal immigrants that are working in the fields, and farms and
like all of
and stuff like
California.
that, all of California. Yeah, I don't think many Americans want to do those jobs. However, there's a bigger problem that Americans would be doing those jobs somehow, or immigrants coming over, they should be paid a lot more money for those jobs they're performing. And there should be a pathway to citizenship from the employers that are exploiting them. No one's talking about the employers that employ these illegals. Nothing's happening to them, right? So that's another story that isn't being told. But, to your point, there are some jobs you can't get Americans to do. And that's when we should be expediting citizenship, providing them opportunities to get a entry-level job, so to speak, there, and then transition into another job, or even better, let's organize those workers, and they are organized in some areas. But I guess on the other side of that, I've heard it at the building trades where, non-union employers or non-union contractors will go in and infiltrate a job with illegal immigrants, where normally if a union contractor is bidding on that same job, they would get it. But where there's such a lowball and these employers are exploiting these immigrant workers, yeah, that's a problem. That's a real problem. That's a true problem. And again, forget about the deportation, forget about how it happened and people getting taken off their jobs. No one's talking about these employers in this country that have been doing this for decades upon decades upon decades. I was organizing in the produce market in Boston in the mid-2000s, and every time, and they were predominantly immigrant workers, and every time the company would get wind that we were in there organizing them, they would call ICE. Or they would threaten to call ICE.
There you go.
So it's just it's a
Same
crazy,
story.
crazy.
But is the
years
reason we're
later.
not talking about that is because the argument would be we all benefit from cheaper things. And
Well, no. We don't benefit from cheaper labor. We would pay the same for everything as long as greedy CEOs would take less, and corporate America would take less and provide more to their workers and not pass the cost on the consumers.
Yep.
It's a simple fix.
Okay. Donald Trump, at least in the early days of his administration, was extraordinarily aligned with Elon Musk. Obviously,
Oh,
they've
yeah.
had a falling out, et cetera.
If you didn't see that one coming,
Yeah, then you're an idiot. But did that worry you at first? You've talked about being
yeah. So I never knew anything about Elon Musk other than he's a freak. I mean, a complete freak, right? And you can just look at him. His motor isn't. There's something bizarre going on in that mind, But I think what a signal early.
But he had been very outspoken in his opposition to organized labor.
Yeah,
Musk
with the
had.
UAW, 100%. Yeah, 100%. We didn't cross paths with him. Yeah, but he didn't listen. He's not a good guy. I mean, he's not there for working people. Did it worry me? To your question, yeah, it worried me because what worried me more when you saw Vivek Ramaswamy the day of the inauguration, after working with him in transition for 2.5 months, step away and say, no, this isn't for me. Then you knew something was going to happen. I mean, people were saying it's not going to last more than 6 months. They'll have a falling out.
But what I'm getting at is this kind of really mixed picture with this president. On the one hand, he's closing the border, ostensibly very good for labor and working people. On the other hand, putting Elon Musk to the side, he's surrounded by more billionaires
Oh,
on
100%.
stage at his inauguration than any president I can remember. On the one hand, he seems to care a tremendous amount about your core issues. On the other hand, he is embracing big tech and lots of the transformative technology that's
Right.
coming. So grade him for me. Like, not even a year into office. How do you think he is doing on the issues that most matter to the Teamsters and organized
Well,
labor?
the Teamsters Union is a little bit different because the position we took during that election has given us a lot of access to this administration where we actually have the ability to have conversations. And there were some decisions made that were going to affect a lot of our members. And we were able to get to the administration and say, look, this is not what you talked about. This is not what you talked about. These are our members. We can't afford to lose these jobs. On the other hand, he's getting criticized because of, smaller government. People are getting laid off. Federal unions are going after him because a lot of their members are losing their jobs.
And you have the big beautiful bill
You
that
have
just
the big,
passed,
beautiful
which
bill, right? And
which critics would say like benefit the wealthiest
to
Americans.
benefit the wealthiest, yeah. So I mean, I think if you were going to grade him, like there'd be 2 grades, okay? There'd be
Yeah.
the policy and platform he said he was going to do as far as immigration, a couple of the other things. I think he's a solid B, right? For us, he's a B because we haven't had too many effects. And by the way, people forget that we were the reason why Laurie Chavez DeRemer is the Secretary of Labor. We went down and lobbied hard for her because she voted for the PRO Act while she was a Republican congressperson, and her father's a retired Teamster. And the field that they were going to choose from to be the Secretary of Labor were all union busting attorneys. So I'm going to call balls and strikes. Are we thrilled with everything he's done? Absolutely not. But are we thrilled with the things we've asked for and we've gotten done? We are pretty happy.
But you said there's 2 grades. So
Right,
there's a
and then you
B,
had-
and what's the other grade?
Well, the grade I would say from other organized labor. I mean, the building trades. I know they're not happy. So I mean, I would say if you were another union, you'd be looking at that saying he's probably a C minus.
So when we're just sort of looking at the complicated picture that is Donald Trump and his relationship to labor, Elon Musk is part of that picture, immigration is part of that picture, and another part of it is Doge and some of the cuts and some of the things that Doge has done that I think a person like you would say has been terrible for workers, like cuts to OSHA, et cetera. How did you feel about the Doge effort, which frankly seems to have died off more recently?
Yeah, the Doge effort at first, I mean, it was frightening because there was again, you get back to every president and probably the last 20 years has always complained about big government and we want a smaller government, but at the cost of what? Like, are we embracing cuts at OSHA, worker safety? No, we're not going to embrace that stuff. Are we embracing, the elimination of the National Labor Relations Board? No. I think what we were hopeful was going to happen, and maybe some opportunity still to happen, is, it's like anything else. Anybody that takes over an organization, the first thing you go into is you make cuts and you look at where, things aren't running efficiently. It doesn't, because cuts are made early on, doesn't tie someone's hands behind their back of rebuilding something that's been broken. Like the NLRB. NLRB is a great tool for working people. I avoided the NLRB when I was organizing at Local 25 and even still.
It's the National Labor Relations
Board. We do still because it's an antiquated system that was getting criticized by organized labor and everybody else that had utilized it and employers through every administration since I've been in office at Local 25 and now. And it took too long to make decisions, wasn't efficient enough. It was a hard process. And that is true. That is accurate. And the Trump administration, cut a bunch of funding for OSHA, NLRB, and everything else. More importantly for us, those are important institutions that we are monitoring right now. There's this other thing that's more important than anything. It's called the Fair Labor Standards Contract. That is going to be the true testament. If we can get bipartisan support on that, that'll define what views the President of the United States has on organized labor. But as far as these other cuts that he made to a lot of these organizations, I mean, we're monitoring them. And look, if we think it's too deep and it's not doing right by working people, you're going to hear from us.
Let's talk about Bernie Sanders for a second, because
He doesn't talk to me anymore.
Why?
I don't know.
When did he stop talking to you?
Right after I spoke at the RNC.
Did you used to talk to him a lot?
All the time. I did rallies with him around the country.
And then what happened? Just went totally silent?
Just whenever I think he looks at it as a betrayal of not endorsing the Democratic Party. He's never said that, but his whole attitude and access has completely changed towards us. I mean, we called him last week, or my staff called him last week because we're working bipartisan on this bill for the Faster Labor Standards Contract, which is basically a thinner version of the PRO Act.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a problem with it, and the staff was not too nice to my staff. So it's like, we're only as good to people when we're carrying their water, but I guess, that doesn't matter. I mean, look, I like the guy, I have respect for him. I saw him on Joe Rogan. I don't know. I mean, this is the problem with politics. People take things too personal. And when you don't go along to get along because you're actually, listening to people you represent, and they don't talk to you anymore. That's the problem. It's fine.
Do you think if he had been the candidate instead of Hillary, we would have a very different Democratic Party? Or were these trends sort of inevitable?
These trends were going to happen. These trends were going to continue on. I just think it was just started going down a different path than it should have been going down, and it just snowballed. I mean, you look at right now, who's the face of the Democratic Party right now?
Zohran Mamdani?
Well, that's in New York, but I'm saying on the federal level, right?
Of course you would say that.
who's the
Trash. Pause real quick. It's like, you know what? No. Let's just let it keep playing.
I don't know. I can't identify one. And the problem is, like, I thought after the election, especially once people got over pointing fingers and blaming everybody, and I said to my mother recently, I'm like, I'm getting crushed by people saying that I should have endorsed Harris because she'd be the president. I'm like, I don't realize I had that much weight, like where we could make up. We only had 1.3 million members, which probably 10 or 11% of them vote. That wouldn't have moved the needle either way. But I'm glad people think that way. But I don't know who that is. I mean, you look at.
Who do you think it should be?
It's got to be someone that it's got to be a younger vision, that has to be open to, solving any and all problems, regardless of what political affiliation you are. I mean, you look at like a guy like Josh Shapiro, right? I don't know where he's going to be. I don't know where his politics are. Seems to be doing a good job in Pennsylvania. Gretchen Whitmer out of Michigan. She seems to be able to work bipartisan.
But these are, forgive me, like we're a little different age, but we're both of a cohort where like those are normal Democrats.
Right.
That doesn't seem to be where the party's
But the
going.
normal Democrats that I would assume if you ask them what was the problem the last time around, they're gonna agree with what you and I are talking about.
I agree.
Today.
I'm saying
and there's still hope.
But they are people who our generation would prefer. If you look at, just to stay on New York, because that's where we're sitting for a second,
God, okay.
most of the New York unions, I think almost all of them, have endorsed a socialist with many wild views that we don't need to get into in this conversation. I've covered them extensively, but they've endorsed Zohran Mamdani. Like, what does that mean?
Well, I think again, it's just culturally, that's the direction the Democratic parties went in, and New York City is definitely dug in on that same platform. And not all unions went with Mamdani. Don't forget when Cuomo was in there, there was a lot that went with Cuomo, and then you just recently seen the cops and firemen go with Adams because of the defund the police stuff. So I don't know. I mean, AOC, no, absolutely not.
Why absolutely not?
Oh, because she's again another social justice warrior. She's personally called me out. I've never met the woman in my life.
Yeah.
But she just doesn't, and if you look at how they voted in her district, I mean, I would spend the majority of my time in my district identifying what my people need instead of, trying to put myself on the ballot for 2028.
But these are people, AOC, Mamdani, we can name a few others, who are, maybe you would say they're just cosplaying as like pro-labor politicians. Like they're saying all the things, like we stand up for working people. That's their whole platform. Why do you say that's bullshit?
But do they though? It's bullshit, because I'll tell you why. This last election, Joe Biden walked a picket line with the UAW. Awesome, he should. I've had 250 strikes in 3 years. The only politician that's walked one of my picket lines has been Josh Hawley. And recently we have a couple in Boston. You've had the whole congressional district in Massachusetts walking. But other than that, they've never been on picket lines. We were fighting Amazon where we were looking for letters of support. There's people that you just mentioned that didn't sign our letters or didn't show up.
Wow.
Yet they want to call you out on everything that you don't agree with them on. They'll call you out saying he's not right. Like AOC's in some like crazy DSA chat or something, whatever it is, saying Sean O'Brien shouldn't be allowed to represent the Teamsters Union. Why? Because I don't agree with you? Like, should you not be allowed to be in Congress because you don't agree with me? I don't agree with you? It's like, lady, I'll put up my record against yours when it comes to defending working people. I'm not out here for a press conference or a photo shoot. We're actually out there doing the work, negotiating the contracts, organizing, and right in our district. I mean, we struck Amazon. I think she showed up like the last day. Chuck Schumer wouldn't even sign a letter of support.
Why are you still a Democrat?
Why?
Yeah, why aren't you an independent?
I don't know yet, because I'm a loyal person.
Barry
Like,
Weiss.
it's like I'm still a Catholic, right? I'm still a Catholic, and the Catholic Church went through a ton of scrutiny, right?
Oh,
a ton of problems they brought on themselves. But it's like, look, where I grew up, you're loyal, and hopefully, they'll see the light. If not, we're just going to keep doing. Look, I'm a realist. That's what I am. I wish there was a party affiliation called realist, because I want to be the person that can have those conversations with anybody.
Yeah.
And agree to disagree on what we can agree on, disagree when we can't, and find a solution to problems instead of weaponizing issues that need to be solved in this country.
And Josh Hawley's doing that.
He's attempting to do it. Roger Marshall's attempting to do it. And we have great, Cory Booker. I mean, he's been great with us as far as, signing on to the Fair Labor Standards contracts. Ed Markey, who I disagree with a lot, he's done some good stuff for us in the warehouse protection bill. And that's the problem. Like and again, we were going through the confirmation process, and this is where my eyes were wide open, is confirmation process of Laurie Chavez Reamer. And I was calling a lot of Democratic senators that I knew, and I'm like, hey, you got to support her. I can't. Why not? I just can't because it's Trump pick. Well, isn't anybody that's going to be nominated?
It's inevitably going to be the choice of the president.
And then I'd have to say, like, look, I went down, I talked to her, I vouched for her. You think I would put my name on someone that? But I said, furthermore, any issue
What's
that comes up
crazy
that's
is
going to be good
that
for
I
labor,
was just
working
looking
people,
up
potentially.
articles online about her, and she just got kicked out of the Trump administration. So much for that. The one guy the one person that Sean O'Brien was down to support in the Trump administration got kicked out of the Trump administration. So it's yeah.
Actually could be good for labor people. You're going to vote against because it's a Trump initiative. Like, that was the mentality. I'm like, this is wrong. This is wrong. Let's look at each and every issue individually and say, yeah, you know what? I can support this or I can't support it. And here's the reasons why. Just to say, no, it's a Trump nominee. Well, he's the president. That's the right of a president, whether you like him or you don't like him. Are we going to vote against everything?
One of the things that I've noticed so my only interaction with unions, aside from the fact that my brother-in-law is a firefighter in Pittsburgh and is a member of the union, did not grow up in a union household, but I did go to fancy school where all of the graduate students were trying to unionize. Or I worked at the New York Times where, growing up, it was like, you're in a union because unions need to exist because these people do very dangerous work, often physical labor, and need to be protected in case of an accident or, God forbid, worse. And now all of a sudden I'm sitting next to Middle East PhD students or PhD students in the history of the Middle East, or, in Midtown Manhattan with, opinion writers at the New York Times
Oh
claiming
my
they need their
God.
labor rights and their union rights. My
Yes.
perception
Is that not
of
a
what
job?
unions are, I just think is wildly different based on the kinds of people that I've seen unionized or trying to unionize, who I feel are almost pretending to be labor, if that makes sense.
Oh
And I'd love
my
for
God. Does she think that sitting there doing this interview is not labor? Oh my God. I guess, just because you love your job doesn't mean that it doesn't still, take up your time, your skills, and your body, You have to physically sit down there, physically and talk with this guy. Jeez, she doesn't understand what unions are. Hopefully Sean O'Brien corrects her, but we'll see.
for you to
Yeah, I think,
talk about that a
yeah,
little
I
bit.
think, I mean, look, your traditional, if you took a traditional snapshot of a union member, and again, not to be, you think of rugged men and women.
I think about you.
Doing
You're
rugged-
like my
doing
caricature of who a
rugged shit,
union guy
right?
is.
But we've evolved. Labor's evolved, right? Where, it wasn't just about blue collar people fighting for their rights and the rights to organize and collectively bargain. Those same attacks happen in white collar arenas as well. So I think that's a testament to what organized labor has done, the history as far as representing working people. Now you get to this other academia, so to speak.
But I
right?
feel that it's stolen valor. It's like,
It's
my
I wouldn't say
do you
it's-
not feel that
I-
way?
Listen, sometimes when I hear the rhetoric of, I spoke at an event in New York, I think it was New York University, whatever, and we just finished the UPS agreement, and we finished that deal, which they control 7% of commerce. If I had an ego and I wanted to stroke my ego, I could have easily struck that company, and so I struck UPS. But we negotiated the deal, and we negotiated the best deal without a strike. The threat of a strike was the thing that got the deal done. And I'm speaking at this event on a panel, and there's a woman that wrote books. She's a UAW member, and she's completely academia, and she's getting up there. We need to strike. We need a strike. Everybody needs a strike. And I'm like, no, you don't need a strike. I mean, strikes are great, but if you can avoid them and keep your members working and get the best deal for them without it, why go through? We just need a strike. Well, answer me. Tell me why. Debate me why. And we started going back, debate me why. That's why I'm not an academic. But I said, well, tell me why. I'll have this debate with you, right?
Debate me, bro.
Yeah. And she's like, well, you just don't understand. No, I understand. I've been on a million picking lines. I'm the guy that showed up at his wedding 3 days before with 8 stitches, black eye, and a broken hand. I said, so don't tell me about what goes on in picking lines. To your point, I think, and I think it's true of anything, people have a certain opinion and or creativity when they think they're, involved in a union until it actually, I love the saying, everybody wants to do big boy shit until it comes down to doing big boy shit and the whole opinion changes.
I don't know if the.
But there's a strange incentive, right? Because like as traditional union membership has declined, there's an incentive for organized labor to say, all right, we're going to organize graduate students. We're going to.
No, I think there's valid issues though. And
Bro,
you're right
what's
to a
our
certain
hang
extent,
up
but I
on
think there's valid issues.
unionized
Like,
graduate
when you see these
students?
universities and these endowments,
They don't
that
like, they
billions
make
upon
like
billions of
minimum
dollars,
wage
and
or
they're trying to
something,
nickel
right?
and dime
Jesus.
adjunct professors or anybody for that matter. Like, of course, you want to join a union, you want to collectively bargain, you want to get the best contract, but you want to have stability. So I think genuinely, I think academia has seen the fruits of what other unions have done or the values of being in a union. And I think, they have taken it to another level. I think a lot of them are still, a lot of the academia that I dealt with, they're still aligned with the far left.
I think maybe one of the most damaging things to the reputation of unions writ large happened during COVID, where a lot of these teachers' unions were basically not thinking about the children who were suffering from lockdowns and having to share an iPad with 4 siblings and fell behind in learning to an
Dude, was
extent
that the
is still
biggest issue
shocking.
at the time?
And the unions were fighting even deep into COVID for schools to remain closed, for them to not come into school. And beyond that, I think parents all of a sudden were having to come face to face with the poor quality of a lot of these teachers. What did you feel about that personally?
Well, personally, it's funny. I just had a conversation with Vivek Ramaswamy last week. I had him on my podcast.
Vivek
And again, a billionaire, right?
Weirdo.
And said all the right things about unions, but he did highlight, but I don't like the teachers union. I'm like, why don't you not like the teachers union? Don't you think they should have a right to collectively bargain? I'm not saying they don't, but let's talk about COVID. I go, okay, let's talk about COVID.
Yeah.
He said, I went to a Catholic school and the Catholic school stayed open through COVID. I go, the Catholic schools are a business.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic.
Yep.
He said, well, there's a lot of teachers. I don't like how they operate. I don't like, the structure of the teachers. I don't like the fact of what they did during COVID. And I said, look, anybody can have the debate about what happened during COVID, because I think it was probably the most uncertain times we ever had. My own personal opinion, I love the teachers union. I love public schools. I went to public schools my whole life. Some of the most influential people in my life are public school teachers. And you think about it, different times, right? They had us for 8 hours a day. Captive audience, a lot of them were our coaches. So I had a different relationship with them. But to your point about as far as COVID goes right now, I think it could have been handled a lot differently. I think initially, the teachers, just like everybody else, were so uncertain about the health and safety. They didn't want to put themselves at risk. They didn't want to put the children at risk.
Yep.
I think COVID was the worst thing that could have happened to this country. And I think it was, something that should have been dealt with a lot differently as far as schools go. And I think if you ask the majority of the people, even teachers, they would probably agree right now. Again, but it happened. It's over, right? And people still want to go back and say, well, the teachers did this during COVID. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
but
you.
what about prior to COVID when they were working hard?
Yeah.
All the
Still
good things they did for
using
generations
their own
upon
money to buy
generations.
school
Why are we talking
supplies.
about that? Why are we going back to talk to COVID? And my point to Vivek on this whole thing was, I said, look, if there's an issue, instead of throwing bombs at each other, get in a room and say, here's my issue with teachers during COVID. And do you think we could have did something different? Do you think we could have got people back to school? But you got to blame the whole temperature of the country at that time. Like I even said, I was so pro
It's the same temperature that
because I had a personal issue that happened to me where I ended up in a coma.
the George
in January
Floyd
2020,
protest came
and I got my
about.
last rights. Right?
What?
Yeah, I had a scar that had to get fixed under my eye, and I got a needle, and I got a viral infection. Which a month later, I ended up I'm on life support with a ventilator. Right? January of 2020. So when I came out of that, I came out angry, saying, I can't believe this. I'm a pretty good person. I live clean. Why me? Like, I want to live a long time. I got 2 boys. And then when COVID hits, I'm like, I'll take any vaccination to live.
I felt that way
right?
too. Yeah.
But I saw some residual things that happened over the years. I saw the way the government handled COVID. I saw the narrative that probably wasn't as true as we thought it was at the time.
Yeah.
And, the teachers probably looked at it the same way. But my point to all this is,
everyone was scared.
you can only solve problems if you have conversations. And look, I've done things.
But with everyone, I guess, except Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with him.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some of these big tech companies that you've mentioned in this conversation.
I hate them all.
Okay. Well, there have been few unionization efforts that have gotten more attention, perhaps other than Starbucks, than Amazon. And those efforts have mostly failed, except for, I think, Staten Island being like a major exception.
They haven't failed because Staten Island was done under the ALU. That was the only one that was actually organized.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have been following it, like most of us, we are invoking a whole different strategy where, we're going after the DSP model, which is their subcontracting model, and going after the warehouse. We haven't had an election since we have been involved.
Let's use Amazon as a way in, because you hate a lot of these companies, but you really hate Amazon.
I despise them.
And I want you to explain why.
Well,
Bro, what the
Amazon
fuck?
is, what I call a white collar crime syndicate.
Yes.
Right? Think about anybody that commits crime. in major cities, where do they focus? They focus on distressed communities. Why? Because those are the most vulnerable people. So if you see where Amazon's building or have been building and will continue to build all their warehouses and distribution facilities, the majority of them are in distressed communities where they can, they focus on the immigrant workforce, where there's a 150% turnover ratio. And that's in the warehouse.
Explain what that means, 150% turnover ratio.
Everybody that goes in, there's a 50% turnover. So you go into some companies like UPS, there's probably a 10 or 12% turnover ratio per year, which is the equivalent size of Amazon. You go into Amazon where the working conditions are so bad, the pay is so low, and the respect is just none exists. These folks go in and there's 150% turnover every year. Amazon has the most amount of fines under OSHA, which means they don't care about their workers, they don't care about the safety of their workers, and they
Wow.
just pay the
Yeah.
fines. And it's an awful place to work. I mean, when you have this day and age when people are threatened that if you go to the bathroom during a shift, you're going to be fired. It's just an awful company. And when you look at another company like UPS, which we are fighting with right now over different issues, but they're working under a collective bargaining agreement, the direct employees that are part-timers, they get health and welfare, full medical, they get pension benefits, but they get a career path to a full-time job.
Yeah.
Amazon, once you're in the warehouse, you're not going anywhere unless you go work for a subcontractor of Amazon
done.
who pays
You're
you
just
about
meant to be a
$18
sponge
per hour
washed
with
up
no
and
benefits,
used.
no regulations, and no career path to retirement. That's a problem.
How do you personally protest? Do you not order things from Amazon? Do you not use Amazon?
It's hard not to. I mean, it's hard not to use Amazon. I try to avoid Amazon at all costs. There was a time when online shopping first came out where you got an option.
Bro, I hate how she's like, I hate how leftists respond to these things, to things that they disagree with in such way. And then she's like, clearly you hate Amazon. Do you boycott them? Like you were just talking about how you didn't like how, leftists do these stupid things. And like, okay, I guess, one individual person not buying stuff off Amazon, that's going to really make a difference. She's crazy.
Order something online, you could ship a UPS, FedEx, DHL, and it was always going to be UPS because they're unionized, or DHL. That option isn't there now. I mean, people, there's no loyalty anymore. It's just, Amazon controls everything, and everybody says, I mean, look, there's certain things you have to order off Amazon, but the good news is that we've organized about 12,000 DSPs throughout the country. We struck 22 locations in December. We are building momentum to organize them. So, I don't feel as guilty when I hit send and I have to get something and it's from Amazon, because two things: it gives me an opportunity to talk to that person that's delivering my package, and I can tell them what it is to be in a union. I can tell them,
That's great.
how important it is to, fight for your rights to organize. So
Why have they not, or why have organizing efforts not been successful at
Maybe
Amazon?
because there's a
Well, I think
100%,
for two
150
reasons. There's
turnover
such
rate. Jesus.
They have such a program. They spend about $500 million a year on union busting.
Wow.
That's awful. And they have a captive audience of those employees that are inside every single day, and they're talking about what's going to happen to them if they organize, retribution, retaliation, all this stuff, which we are fighting that on state levels to make it illegal to have those meetings. And we've been very successful in states. I think we've gotten success with the DSP model. And when we took over this task, we knew it was going to be a 5 to 7 year plan to organize Amazon nationwide. We've gotten some good decisions in California from the general counsel, the acting general counsel of the National Labor Relations Board. So I think there is going to be a path to victory at some point in time. It's just going to be a fight.
If Jeff Bezos were sitting here, what would you say to him?
Oh, I'd call him a piece of shit.
Have you ever met him?
Never met him. Never met him.
Of course not.
I mean, think about what he spent on his wedding.
Yeah.
And if you just paid, if you bargain a union contract would probably cost less than his wedding did in certain areas.
Zora Mamdani says things like billionaires shouldn't exist. Do you agree with that?
Look, if someone's done well and worked hard and they've done well in their life, I mean, hats off to them. But if greedy billionaires that want to take on and attack working people, then no, they shouldn't be allowed to be billionaires. They shouldn't have that privilege.
Yeah.
I don't count other people's money. What I do is I focus on what the problem is, and I focus on, how we find a solution. And I don't care if Jeff Bezos is worth, 500 billion or 500,000. The same person is going to exist. He's a piece of shit. And, you don't fault anybody for working hard and making money. But should billionaires, what do you do? Ban billionaires or just not allowed to make money? How do you regulate that?
Well, that's why I'm asking.
Believe me, I don't know.
So, but
Believe me, by the way, I have a lot of members.
But I think
I have a lot of members that are millionaires. Like, they've worked 40, 50 years, saved their money, made investments, bought houses, worked hard.
Millionaires,
can have
not
pensions. It's great, right?
billionaires, brother.
I think if the people that run Amazon were sitting here, they would say, how could you say that this person's a piece of shit? Look at this unbelievable company that he's built. Look at all of the people they employ, and look at the way that it has, for the consumer, allowed us to order things at just an amazing prices. What would you say to that?
But you go into any of these facilities in New York, Boston, major cities,
and you look at how these people are treated all around the country.
Yes,
You
that's
look
all
at
you need to do.
value that, they bring to that company, and you look at how they're treated, and you wouldn't treat your worst enemy the way that some of these people are treated. And the other thing too, it's like it should resonate when people are working there for this billionaire, and they are on subsidized housing. Some of them are homeless. Some of these people are homeless in major cities,
Food
going to
stamps.
Amazon, or they're going to live in shelters. If you're that much of a high profile billionaire success story, then you should be rewarding the people that are making your company the success that it is. And that's why I
Amen.
say he's a piece of shit. He's not doing that.
One of the things I'm struck by in thinking about conditions, let's just say
She doesn't
in
have a response
shipping
to that,
facilities or packaging systems at a place like Amazon, is that the people that are doing that labor right now could be made irrelevant by AI and robotics. Let's just say the next few years. What are you going to do about that?
Well, there's a lot of opportunity to retrain people too. Like in the UPS agreement, that was on our radar screen these last negotiations. And, everybody will say it's not going to be here for 10 years. You and I both know that everybody wants, especially employers, they want efficiencies, and they want technologies, and they want to do it at the least amount of cost.
Yeah.
But like under a unionized contract at UPS and many other industries, grocery warehouse that we represent, we negotiate and we collaborate to mandate that collaboration has to happen when implementation of technology comes into play, where we create jobs as a result of this technology. So if you're going to completely automate a facility, a shipping facility, someone's got to be repairing these shipping facilities. Someone's got to be programming these computers. There's always opportunity to create new jobs. And that's what our focus has been. And that's what people should be focused on. Even these big companies, these big tech companies. I mean, what are you going to do? And I said this to the governor of Colorado recently, because he vetoed
it's Jared Polis.
Yeah, another brain surgeon. But
Damn.
and the conversation I had with him was frightening, to be honest with you, because
Why?
well, he vetoed the bill. Before he vetoed the bill of requiring human operators in commercial vehicles. I said, my conversation started with, I love the Teamsters Union. I work hard with the Teamsters Union. I'm like, okay, great. I support the Teamsters Union. Great. I need you to sign that. I need you to sign that bill. I can't do that this time. Why not? I just can't. I go, so what are we going to do with those 250,000 commercial drivers in the state of Colorado that depend upon being in a commercial vehicle, providing goods and services to this country? Where are we going to put them? I wouldn't worry about that, Sean. That's not happening for 10 to 15 years from now. But there's 10 to 15 years from now, there might be 300,000 people that depend upon those jobs to make a living. Where do we put them? Where do they go to work? I haven't thought about it. I go, and put that to the side. All this infrastructure money that we're replacing roads and bridges, I said, you're going to allow these vehicles not operated by a human that are going to be heavier, destroying roads and bridges, further causing public safety issues, and a family of four goes on and gets killed by this car. Like, are you going to feel guilty? Are you going to feel bad about that? Well, I'd say it's not for 10 to 15 years. I'm like, no, you don't get it. Where are you going to put these people to work? And, I don't think people are thinking this stuff out. They're like infatuated with technology, and they don't realize those 250,000 people are the constituents that elected him to represent them.
I mean, if we just go to like 30,000 feet, the kinds of radical changes, not just to jobs, but to like what it means to be a human being when a machine is smarter than you, is just so profound. It's going to be arguably more transformative to our society and to the world than the advent of electricity.
But don't you think the best computer in the world is a human brain and instinct? Like, think about this. You're driving down the road, you drive a car or whatever.
I'm a terrible driver, but
Right,
yes.
but you have instincts. You make decisions instantly, because you're not programmed just to go from point A to point B. You're programmed as a human being to look and see different potential shortcomings coming your way. These robots aren't programmed that way. They got a specific task. They're going to go from point A to point B. And look, we've seen it. You've seen it with Teslas in Arizona, or Waymo. I think it's Waymo, maybe not Tesla, Waymo, where they run into each other. They've killed someone. I mean, the technology is not foolproof.
Of course, it's not foolproof, but it's very, very good, and it's already transforming everything.
What's it good for?
Well, it's good for efficiency. It's good. Waymo, I'm sure if they were sitting here, would say, sure, there's accidents, but there's far fewer accidents with self-driving cars than there are with human beings behind the wheel. We don't need to litigate that.
Right.
The question I'm trying to get to with you is the even like the dignity of work. What having a job in the world gives people in terms of a sense of meaning, that is all going to be up for discussion over the next.
For grabs.
Exactly. So what's your philosophy?
Look, I think my philosophy is
because
this.
some people, some people's response is we need UBI, right? That's how we're going to solve the problem. I think that's ridiculous. I just don't think that solves the question of meaning and purpose in people's lives.
Right.
So what is the solution going to be? Because this technology is coming. It's here.
Yeah, the solution is to mandate. Like, I mean, you look at the big beautiful bill when they wanted to not allow states to regulate AI for 10 years.
that moratorium that was put in there, and thankfully they got out of the big beautiful bill, big bad bill, whatever it's called. But what should be done? I mean, we've got to take a look at where technology. I don't think people get this perception that, oh, everybody, unions want to slow down the implementation of technology, all this stuff. I don't think anybody wants to slow it down, because to your point, it's already here. We've got to look for opportunities on where we can create jobs for human beings that once perform these jobs that may be performed by robots or machinery or whatever the case may be. And there is a great opportunity to do that.
Are you ready for a lightning round?
Love it.
Okay. One word to describe the following people. Donald Trump. One word.
Chaos.
JD Vance.
Hard charger.
AOC.
AOC. Great bartender.
Elizabeth Warren.
It's the reason why we have pensions. That was one word.
It's okay.
Pension.
It's good. Bernie Sanders.
Liked him. He doesn't like me anymore.
Josh Hawley.
Solid.
Cable news channel of choice. If you're in a hotel, you got to find out what's going on. What are you going to turn on?
I'm going to turn on your podcast to see what you talked about.
Yeah, right. Okay, you've settled your beef with Senator Mullen of Oklahoma, with whom you almost had this amazing physical confrontation.
Twice.
Could you kick his ass?
He's a farm boy. We fight different in the city.
Damn.
Depends where we're at. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't fight him fair. So probably.
Who's the worst CEO in America?
Jeff Bezos. Well, he's not a CEO anymore, is he? Probably Jaffe or whatever his name is.
Who's the best?
The best CEO?
The best.
The CEO of my household, my girlfriend Christine.
Damn.
Which is America's sport, baseball or football?
Football.
Why?
Because it's a full contact sport, just like life.
Best player of all time?
Tom Brady.
What's the best sandwich in America? You've probably had a lot of sandwiches.
Best sandwich in America?
Yeah.
It would be I gotta go to my neighborhood.
Okay.
Bob's jumbo chicken cutlet palm on braided roll.
Wow.
Went deep on that one, huh?
How often do you have that?
Not often anymore.
How many hours do you sleep a night?
I try and sleep I probably get 4 to 5 hours a night.
If I polled rank and file Teamsters members and asked them, describe Sean O'Brien, how would they describe you?
Wouldn't be good looking. They might say he works tirelessly and he calls balls and strikes, and you know where you stand with him, whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him.
If you could choose anyone to run for president in 2028, who would you choose?
Who would I choose to run for president in 2028?
Damn.
That's a good question. Outside of the current field?
Yes. Who would be your pick? You can anoint them.
Snoop Dogg.
Why?
Because you don't want to be like shock value for this country, wouldn't it?
As if we need more shock after Donald Trump.
They definitely legalized marijuana nationwide.
Would you ever run for office?
No, I would never.
Why not?
No, it's not my thing. Like, I'm not a politician, even though people think I'm a politician or people will label me a politician. I'm a working class guy from a neighborhood, you know what I mean? And I just got a lucky break and took advantage of it and worked hard to get where I am. I'm not gonna sit in there and I'd rather be influential in politics than be in politics.
If you could go back and give a piece of advice to you at 17, 18 when you became a rigger, what would it be?
Embrace different opinions.
Damn.
Embrace different perspectives. And also, more importantly, don't look at criticism as anything but an opportunity to learn other people's perspectives.
Sean O'Brien, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a solid dude. That was great. That was great. I feel like it was kind of crazy. We'll have to watch another one of his interviews because obviously Bari Weiss was trying to get certain answers out of him and asking him very specific questions with leading answers, blah blah blah. But yeah, that was good. I think we're gonna end the stream here for today. I had a great time. We will continue maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. We have been doing a lot of streaming, but that's great. We're getting better at it. At least I am. I think getting more comfortable with streaming, so we will be jumping in more. It's just coming up on the end of the semester, and I do not want to deal with school, but I got to deal with school. So we shall see about tomorrow. Either way, have a good night, everyone. Peace out. I had a great time. Thank you for joining me. My name is Angelina Tucci. Subscribe, like the video if you haven't liked the video, and have a good rest of your night. I'll let the low poly, ethereal drum and bass music play us out. But have a good night, everyone.